Tonight, we're exploring the complete history of Wandlore in the wizarding world. There is plenty to unpack tonight, but I'll keep the narration slow and steady so you can still ease into sleep. Thank you to those of you who've been joining us consistently. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment night 1. Now back to the video. Think for a moment about the first time you stepped into the narrow, dusty confines of a small shop in Diagon Alley through the eyes of a young boy with a lightning bolt scar. The air there is different. It smells of ancient dust, of secret resins, and a faint, tingling electricity that raises the hair on your arms. Thousands of narrow boxes are piled to the ceiling, each containing a mystery, each waiting for a specific touch. This is the realm of Wandlore, a branch of magic so ancient and so complex that even the greatest wizards of the age admit to being mere students of its depths. We often treat a wand as a simple tool, a conduit for a witch or wizard's internal power, but the truth is far more sentient and far more haunting. A wand is not just a piece of wood and a magical core, it is a partner, a witness, and a record keeper of a magical life. To understand Wandlore is to understand the very heartbeat of magic itself, stretching back over 2,000 years into the mists of time, long before the Ministry of Magic existed, and long before the stone walls of Hogwarts were even a dream. The history of this craft is a tapestry woven from the traditions of Celtic Druids, the expansion of the Roman Empire, and the desperate migrations of those seeking a new life in the Americas. It is a story that begins with crude, shabby sticks and evolves into the precision instruments crafted by the Ollivander family, a name that has become synonymous with the art itself. But why does a wand choose a specific person? Why does one wand favor the bold and the brave, while another seeks out the cautious and the clever? The answer lies in the philosophy of symbiosis. A wand is not a slave to its master, it is a reflection of them. It learns from the wizard, just as the wizard learns from the wand. They grow together, their temperaments merging until the two become a single, unified force of nature. When we talk about the history of Wandlore, we are really talking about the evolution of the relationship between humanity and the supernatural forces of the world. We must look back to the era before 382 B.C., a time when the British Isles were a wild, untamed landscape of deep forests and ancient rituals. The Druids, those mysterious guardians of nature, were the first to truly listen to the trees. They didn't see a vine or a branch as mere wood. They saw them as living entities with distinct personalities. To a Druid, anything with a woody stem was a tree, a philosophy that allowed them to tap into the unique magical properties of plants that other cultures might have overlooked. These early wands were rough, perhaps even ugly by modern standards, but they carried the raw, unfiltered power of the earth. It was during this time that the foundations of Wandlore were laid, the realization that certain woods resonate with certain souls. But these early wands lacked the refinement today. They were unpredictable, often temperamental, and required a level of raw will that few could maintain. Then came the Romans, and with them, the Ollivander family. The arrival of the Ollivanders in Britain was a turning point that would resonate for 2 millennia. They brought with them a Mediterranean sophistication, a sense of craftsmanship that transformed the wand from a crude tool into a work of art. The founding of their shop in 382 BC marks the beginning of the recorded history of professional wand-making. For generations, the Ollivanders experimented, cataloguing the effects of different cores and woods, slowly uncovering the laws that govern magical allegiance. They understood, perhaps better than anyone else, that the wand is a judge of character. It possesses an innate ability to sense the potential, the loyalty, and the destiny of the person holding it. This is the first and most fundamental law of Wandlore. The wand chooses the wizard. It is a choice based on a deep metaphysical compatibility that defies simple explanation. As we move through the centuries, the mystery only deepens. We encounter the legendary brothers in the 13th century, whose encounter with the figure of death led to the creation of the most infamous object in Wandlore history, the Elder Wand. Made of elder wood with a core of thestral hair, this wand represents the pinnacle of power and the depths of human greed. Its history is a bloody trail of duels and betrayals, a stark reminder that while a wand can be a partner, it can also be a curse. The Elder Wand is the exception to almost every rule, a unique entity that can repair the irreparable and grant its master unmatched power, but always at a terrible cost. It stands as a dark monument to the potential of Wandlore, a shadow that hangs over the entire discipline. But Wandlore is not just a European story. Across the vast Atlantic, in the rugged wilderness of North America, a different kind of magic was taking root. The story of Sayre, the founder of Ilvermorny, is a testament to the resilience of the craft. Fleeing persecution and bringing with her the ancient traditions of her Irish heritage, she adapted wandmaking to a new world. In America, Wandlore became entangled with the harsh realities of the 17th century, leading to the enactment of Rappaport's law. This law, born of fear and the need for secrecy, dictated the lives of young witches and wizards, forbidding them from carrying their wands outside of school until they reached adulthood. It created a unique culture of wand use, one where the permit was as important as the wand itself, reflecting the tension between the magical and non-magical worlds. The technical mechanics of Wandlore are just as fascinating as its history. The concept of brother wands, those rare pairs that share a core from the same magical creature, introduces the phenomenon of Priori Incantatem. This reverse spell effect is a cosmic safeguard, a built-in refusal of the magic to turn against itself. When two brother wands meet in combat, the result is not a duel, but a connection, a golden thread that links two souls and forces the wands to reveal their secrets. It is a reminder that even in the heat of battle, there are laws that cannot be broken and connections that cannot be ignored. Then there are the cores themselves, the supreme cores of dragon heartstring, unicorn hair, and phoenix feather. Each carries its own temperament. The dragon heartstring is powerful and quick to learn, but prone to accidents and easily turned to the dark arts. The unicorn hair is the most faithful, producing the most consistent magic and rarely suffering from fluctuations or blockages. And then there is the phoenix feather, the rarest and most detached of all, capable of the greatest range of magic, but notoriously difficult to master. The choice of a core is a reflection of the wizard's inner nature, a chemical reaction between the essence of a magical beast and the spirit of a human being. Tonight, we are going to trace these threads from the ancient Druidic groves to the bustling streets of 20th century London and the hidden halls of Ilvermorny. We will examine the lives of the great Wandmakers, the properties of the sacred woods, and the unbreakable laws that govern every flick and swish of a wand. We will look at how a simple piece of wood can hold the memory of every spell it has ever cast, and how it can sense the change in its master's heart. This is a journey into the very soul of the wizarding world, a deep dive into the mysteries that even Mr. Ollivander considers complex and mysterious. So settle in, let the world outside fade away, and join me as we uncover the complete 1,000-year history of Wandlore. From the first spark of Druidic magic to the final repair of a broken holly wand, this is the story of the bond that defines what it means to be a wizard. We will explore how the Celtic tree calendar influenced the very construction of wands, linking a person's birth to the wood that would eventually serve them. We will see how the Roman expansion brought new materials and new philosophies to the British Isles, forever changing the way magic was practiced. We will delve into the dark legends of the Deathly Hallows and the tragic lineage of the Peverells, seeking to understand why the Elder Wand behaves so differently from its peers. And we will cross the ocean to see how a young woman's dream of a magical school led to the creation of a new branch of Wandlore in the Americas, one that had to survive in a world of puritanical fear and strict legal boundaries. There is a weight to this history, a sense of gravity that comes from knowing that every great event in the wizarding world was shaped by the wands held by the participants. The wands of Merlin, of Morgana, of Dumbledore, and of Voldemort. Each one tells a story of ambition, of sacrifice, and of power. By understanding the wood, the core, and the history of these objects, we gain a deeper insight into the people who wielded them. We begin to see that the wand is not just an accessory, but a character in its own right, with its own history, its own preferences, and its own destiny. As we move through this narrative, we will pay close attention to the sensory details that make Wandlore so evocative. The feel of the wood, some warm and supple, others cold and unyielding. The sound of a wand performing a perfect spell, a sharp crack or a soft hum. The visual of the sparks that fly when a true match is made, a moment of pure, blinding alignment between two disparate entities. We will consider the ethics of wand ownership, the ways in which a wand can be won or lost, and what it truly means for a wand to give its allegiance to a new master. This is a story of craft, of tradition, and of the enduring power of nature. It is a story that reminds us that even in a world of spells and enchantments, there are mysteries that remain unsolved, and depths that remain unplumbed. The study of Wandlore is a reminder that magic is not just something you do, but something you are a part of. It is a relationship, a dialogue between the human spirit and the hidden forces of the universe. So as we begin this long-form exploration, let yourself be carried away by the steady rhythm of the history, the slow unfolding of the secrets, and the quiet beauty of a craft that has survived for over 2 millennia. Whether you are a scholar of the magical arts, or simply someone looking to find peace in the stories of another world, there is something here for you. The dust is settling in the shop, the boxes are waiting, and the history of Wandlore is ready to be told. Let us start at the very beginning, in the time of the Druids, when the first whispers of Wandlore were heard in the rustle of the leaves and the creaking of the ancient oaks. Let us follow the path of the Ollivander family as they crossed the seas to bring their art to a new land. Let us witness the birth of the Elder Wand and the rise of the American tradition. Every detail, every date, and every law will be laid out before you, providing a comprehensive map of this fascinating discipline. This is more than just a history, it is an invitation to see the wizarding world through a different lens, to appreciate the subtle complexities of the objects that make magic possible. The relationship between a wizard and their wand is perhaps the most intimate bond in the magical world. It is a partnership that begins in childhood and often lasts until the very end of life. A wand is there for the first successful charm, the first defensive curse, and the first moment of true magical realization. It feels the fear, the joy, and the anger of its wielder. It is a witness to history, often passing through multiple hands, carrying the echoes of its previous masters with it. To study Wandlore is to study the human condition through the medium of magic. It is to ask what makes us who we are, and how our tools shape our destiny. So, as we dive into these chapters, from the philosophy of the supreme cause to the intricacies of Rappaport's law, keep in mind the central theme of symbiosis. Remember that for every spell cast, there is a wand that made it possible. A wand that chose to serve, to protect, and to empower. The history of Wandlore is the history of that choice, repeated millions of times over thousands of years. It is the story of the spark that ignites when the right hand meets the right wood. Let us begin that journey now, traveling back to the dawn of magic and moving steadily forward through the ages, until we reach the present day, where the boxes still wait on the shelves of a small shop in Diagon Alley, and the mystery of Wandlore continues to enchant and baffle even the wisest among us. We will look at the specific woods mentioned in the ancient texts, the holly that represents protection and the overcoming of anger, the yew that is so often associated with death and rebirth, and the vine that the Druids loved so dearly for its hidden strength. We will understand why Garrick Ollivander decided to move away from the idiosyncratic cores of the past, like Kelpie hair or Vela hair, in favor of the 3 supreme materials that he believed provided the most reliable results. We will explore the tragedy of the Peverell family, seeing how their pursuit of mastery over death led to the creation of objects that could never truly be mastered. And we will see how the magical community in America had to adapt its traditions to survive in a landscape that was often hostile to their very existence. Every piece of information we discuss tonight is a building block in our understanding of this complex field. From the founding date of 382 BC to the modern-day implications of wand ownership, we will cover it all. The narration will remain calm, the pace will remain steady, and the depth of the research will be evident in every sentence. This is the complete history of Wandlore, a deep dive designed for those who want to truly understand the mechanics and the mythology of the Harry Potter universe. So, take a deep breath, let your mind wander into the world of ancient forests and dusty workshops, and let the history of the wand begin to unfold. As we transition into the first major era of our journey, consider the quiet dignity of the wandmaker's craft. It is a profession that requires patience, intuition, and a profound respect for the natural world. A wandmaker must be part botanist, part zoologist, and part philosopher. They must be able to hear the song of the wood and the pulse of the core. They must be able to see the potential in a child and match it to the potential in a stick of timber. This is the art that the Ollivanders perfected, and it is the art that we will celebrate tonight. We will look at the tools of the trade, the secret techniques passed down through generations, and the moments of discovery that changed the course of magical history. The story of Wandlore is also a story of migration and cultural exchange. As wizards moved across the globe, they brought their traditions with them, blending them with local practices to create something new. The Druidic traditions of Britain met the Roman techniques of the continent, which then traveled to the Americas to meet the indigenous magical practices of the New World. This convergence created a rich, diverse landscape of Wandlore, one that reflects the complexity of the human experience. We will explore these connections, seeing how the Celtic tree calendar found a new home in the birth date traditions of Ilvermorny, and how the legal restrictions of one country influenced the magical education of another. Finally, we will address the ultimate questions of Wandlore. Can a wand ever truly be broken? What happens to the magic when a wand is destroyed? And is it possible for a wizard to ever truly master a wand that did not choose them? These are the questions that haunt the pages of history and the minds of the greatest magical thinkers. By the end of our time together tonight, you will have a much clearer picture of the answers and a much deeper appreciation for the mysterious, sentient objects that witches and wizards carry in their pockets every day. The journey is long, the history is rich, and the secrets are many. Let us begin our exploration of the complete history of Wandlore, starting with the ancient origins that set everything in motion. We will start with the definition and the core philosophy, the very bedrock upon which all Wandlore is built. We will talk about Mr. Ollivander's own words, his characterization of the craft as mysterious and complex. We will look at that first law, the one that every young student learns on their first trip to Diagon Alley, and we will peel back the layers to see what it really means for a wand to give its allegiance. We will discuss the reciprocal nature of the relationship, the way the wizard and the wand reflect each other, and how they develop together over time. This is the foundation, the starting point for everything that follows. From here, we will move back in time to the pre-Roman era, to the Celts and the Druids, and begin the chronological journey through 2,000 years of magic. The path is clear, the history is waiting, and the story of the wand is about to begin. There is a quiet mystery in the wizarding world that almost nobody stops to consider. It sits in the pocket of every witch and wizard, a perfectly carved conduit between will and reality, and yet the vast majority of magic users will go their entire lives without ever once pausing to ask what their wand actually is. We know it is a tool, it is a vessel, but the study of that single object reveals something far stranger and far older than simple craftsmanship. It reveals a discipline that sits at the very edge of magical understanding, a field so deep that even its greatest masters admit they are still learning its secrets. This field has a name. It is called Wandlore, and the great perhaps the most famous wandmaker to ever draw breath, described it as the most complex and mysterious branch of magic. It is a deliberate and telling choice of words. Complex suggests layers of knowledge that require intense study, a web of interconnected rules that takes a lifetime to fully grasp. Mysterious suggests something different. It suggests that despite thousands of years of practice, despite generations of wandmakers refining their craft, there are aspects of this discipline that remain fundamentally beyond complete comprehension. It is a science that is haunted, not by ghosts, but by the strange and undeniable will of the objects themselves. Ollivander understood this better than anyone. His philosophy of wands was not the philosophy of a mechanic repairing an engine. It was the philosophy of a scholar studying a conscious being. He spoke of wands as sentient instruments. He did not mean that they could think in the way a human thinks, or hold a conversation, or form complex plans, but he believed they could feel, they could judge, and most importantly, they could choose. In his shop on Diagon Alley, those towering shelves of white cardboard boxes are not filled with mere products. They are filled with personalities, waiting to be matched. He treats each one with the quiet reverence of a naturalist approaching a rare and beautiful creature. He watches for the flicker of a reaction. He listens for the hum of compatibility. He lets the wand speak first. This is the heart of the distinction between the craft of making a wand and the science of understanding it. Wand making is a mechanical art. It is the physical assembly of wood and core. It is the carving, the polishing, the application of the magical seals that allow energy to flow cleanly through the vessel. It is a trade, a set of skills that can be handed down from master to apprentice. Wandlore is the theory behind those hands. It is the why. It is the intricate body of knowledge that explains why Holly repels certain types of dark magic, while Yew embraces them. It is the reason unicorn hair produces the most consistent and loyal magic, while Phoenix Feather is known for its capricious and independent temperament. Wandlore is a vast library that covers ancient botany, magical biology, philosophy, and the long arc of magical history. It demands not just skill, but wisdom, and this is precisely why most wizards take their primary magical instrument entirely for granted. They receive a wand at 11 years old. It works. It performs. And so the questions simply never form. A witch might carry the same wand through 6 decades of life, through joy and tragedy and quiet triumph, and never once ask why it feels warm in the presence of a particular stranger. A wizard might duel for years without ever understanding why an opponent's wand feels heavy and resistant in his own hand. The wand is simply there, a constant and humble companion. Its mysteries become invisible, hidden in plain sight by the sheer weight of familiarity. The privilege of magic is that it works. The tragedy of that privilege is that it prevents most people from ever looking beneath the surface. The roots of this field stretch far deeper than most realize. They weave through the ancient practices of the Druids, who defined the very nature of a tree with such broad generosity that anything with a woody stem was considered wood. This is why vine became a legitimate wandwood, a tradition that Ollivander himself continued into the 20th century. The discipline reaches back over 2,000 years to the founding of the Ollivander family in Britain, a lineage that arrived alongside the expansion of the Roman Empire and rapidly eclipsed the cruder wands of the local Celtic tribes. It encompasses the creation of the most powerful wand ever known, and the strict, unbreakable laws that govern how these instruments interact when forced to fight. Every wand carries the echo of its own long history, but the entire structure of wandlore, every theory, and every carefully observed tradition, rests upon a single foundational concept. Before we can understand the wars that shape the history of wandmaking, or the unique properties of the supreme cause, we must understand the fundamental choice that happens the moment a hand touches a wand for the very first time. It is the first principle of this complex and mysterious art, a rule so central to magical identity that it is spoken with absolute reverence by every wandmaker who has ever held the title. It defines the bond between wizard and wood, and it is the subject of the very next step of our journey into the depths of magical history, the First Law of Wandlore. In the previous chapter, we began to peel back the layers of wandlore, a discipline so intricate that even its greatest living master, Mr. Ollivander, could only call it a complex and mysterious branch of magic. We saw how he viewed wands not as simple conduits for power, but as sentient instruments, each with its own temperament, its own history, and its own quiet will. And that understanding brings us directly to the first and most unshakable truth of wandlore, the principle that underpins everything else. The wand chooses the wizard. It is a law so fundamental that it is spoken like a proverb, yet it is anything but simple. How can an object, an unthinking piece of wood and core, demonstrate judgment? How can it possess intuition? The answer lies in the very nature of wand-making itself. A wand is not a crafted tool in the ordinary sense. It is a receptacle of magic, yes, but more than that, it is a repository of intention. The wood, the core, the shape, the length, the flexibility, every detail is chosen with purpose. And when a wand is made, it is not merely assembled. It is born with a kind of latent awareness, a potential, but that potential remains dormant until it meets its true match. Think of it as a key, designed for a specific lock. You can force a different key into the lock, wiggle it, apply pressure, and sometimes it will turn. But the fit will never be smooth. The lock will resist, the key will wear, and eventually, something will break. A wand that has not chosen its wielder behaves in much the same way. The spells may still leave the wand, but they will feel sluggish, imprecise, as if the magic is moving through a fog. The wand may spark unpredictably, refuse certain incantations, or even backfire at the worst possible moment. The result is not just poor performance, but a fundamental disharmony that can be dangerous. A wizard who does not hold allegiance to their wand is a wizard who cannot trust their own magic, and yet when the wand does choose, the moment is unmistakable. It is a sensation that has been described across centuries. A warmth spreads from the point of contact, radiating up the arm and into the chest. A light, often golden or silver, springs from the tip. Sometimes sparks dance along the length of the wood. Sometimes the wand vibrates gently, as if it is humming a note only the wizard can hear. This is the physical sign of a perfect match. It is the wand acknowledging the wizard, and in that same instant, the wizard feels a surge of recognition. They know without doubt that this piece of wood and core is theirs. It is not a feeling of ownership, but of partnership, of mutual acceptance. This reciprocity is the heart of the First Law. The wand does not simply submit to the wizard, it chooses them, and in doing so, it offers its allegiance. But allegiance is not permanent. It can be won, lost, and transferred. A wand may change its loyalty if it is taken by force, if it is won in a duel, or if the wizard proves unworthy of its trust. This is the deeper mystery that follows from the First Law. How allegiance shifts, how it can be earned through respect or stolen through conquest, is a story that unfolds through centuries of Wandlore, and it is a story we will explore next as we move into the concept of allegiance itself. And so we find ourselves standing at the edge of a profound mystery. The wand chooses the wizard. That much we have accepted. But what does that choice actually mean? How does an object of wood and core, something without a brain or a heartbeat, decide that you are worthy of its allegiance? The answer lies not in mechanics, but in a kind of magic that defies simple explanation. A magic that is deeply personal, almost spiritual. When a wand grants its loyalty to a specific magical user, it is not a transaction, it is a recognition. The wand senses something within you, a resonance that it has been waiting for. Mr. Ollivander, who spent a lifetime observing this moment, described it as a feeling of warmth and readiness. The wand chooses the wizard, not because it has a will of its own, but because it has a memory. Every wand is made from wood that once grew in the earth, drawing life from sunlight and rain, and from a core that came from a creature of immense magical power. That wood and that core carry a record of the world they came from. When you hold a wand for the first time, it scans you. It compares your magical signature to the patterns it was built to recognize. And if you match, it gives itself to you. But the bond is not instantaneous. There is a warming up period, a time when the wand and the wizard learn to trust each other. You cannot simply pick up a new wand and expect it to perform perfectly. It needs to become accustomed to your touch, to the way you channel your magic. Think of it like a new friendship. At first, there is awkwardness. Spells may fizzle or veer off course. The wand might feel heavy, or too light, or simply wrong. Yet as you practice, as you pour your intent through the wood again and again, the wand begins to adapt. It learns the shape of your magic, the rhythm of your thoughts, and you in turn learn the wand's quirks. This reciprocal relationship is the heart of Wandlore. Wands and wizards grow together. Over time, the wand begins to reflect the character of its owner. That is why a wand's properties, its wood, its core, its flexibility, often mirror the soul of the wizard who wields it. A brave and bold person might find that their wand is made of sturdy oak and dragon heartstring, while a gentle and loyal soul might be drawn to willow and unicorn hair. The wand does not change its nature, but it becomes an extension of the wizard's personality. It bends to their will, but only if their will is true. This is why a wand can be passed down through a family, and still refuse to serve a new master. It remembers the original bond. It remembers the wizard who first awakened its magic. And there is a deeper truth here. When a wand is won from another wizard, its allegiance can shift. But that shift is not automatic. It requires an act of overcoming, of proving yourself stronger or more worthy. The wand's loyalty is not fickle. It is earned through genuine connection. That is why the Elder Wand, the most notorious wand in history, changed hands so often. Not because it was disloyal, but because those who took it by force never truly earned its respect. They only conquered its previous owner. The wand itself remained aloof, waiting for a wizard it could truly call master. The initial bond between wand and wizard is a moment of magic that happens in quiet shops like Ollivanders, in dusty back rooms, and in the hands of desperate refugees. It is a moment that can change the course of a life, and it is only the beginning, because once the bond is formed, the learning never stops. As you grow, your wand grows with you. It becomes a part of your magical identity, a partner in every spell you cast. That is the concept of allegiance. Not ownership, but partnership. Now, imagine carrying that understanding back through the centuries, to a time when wands were crude and shabby, when the very first wandmakers were just beginning to uncover these secrets. We are about to step into that ancient world before Ollivanders, before the Druids, before the first laws of Wandlore were ever written down. The story of how it all began is waiting for us in the dawn of magical history. And that story starts with a journey into the B.C. era, where the very first trees were chosen and the very first bonds were forged. You now understand the law of allegiance. You know that a wand learns the nature of its wizard, shifting subtly over years of shared experience. But this relationship, this deep symbiosis, did not spring fully formed from the mind of Garrick Ollivander or his ancestors. It was forged in a much older, darker, and wilder period of magical history. To truly grasp the soul of the wand, we must turn our gaze backward, far beyond the polished counters of Diagon Alley, to the B.C. era, a time when magic was not yet refined, when Europe itself was a vast, untamed wilderness, and the wand was not a sophisticated instrument, but a raw, living bond between a wizard and the wild. Tracing the earliest evidence of wand use in prehistoric Europe is a challenge, not because the evidence is lacking, but because it often looks like something else entirely to the non-magical eye. Archaeologists digging in the Celtic fringes and the deep woodlands of Germania have often found ancient staffs, wrapped in leather and ritualistically buried. In magical history, these are the proto-wands. They were rarely straight, rarely balanced. Instead of a precise core inserted into a hollow chamber, these earliest wands were often branches where the magic already resided. A wand of Rohan from 600 years before the Common Era was not crafted. It was. A wizard or witch would walk a sacred grove, feeling the pulse of each tree, searching for a branch that called out to them, resonating with their own magical fingerprint. They would break it off, strip the bark with a ritual blade, and begin a long process of coaxing the magic within. This was the great transition from raw magical channeling to focused tool-assisted casting. Before wands, magic was an outpouring. It was a burst of uncontrolled emotion, a flash of accidental power that happened a magical person, not one they directed. Think of the young witch or wizard in the ancient world. Their accidental magic could save a life or start a fire, but it was unreliable, a geyser waiting to explode. The staff or the early wand changed everything. It acted as a lightning rod for intent. It gave the chaos of magic a conduit, a spine, down which the will of the wizard could travel. The first wandless magic was pure survival. The magic with a wand was the birth of civilization for the wizarding world. This brings us to the mystery of the first wandmaker, the lost techniques of antiquity. We do not know their name. It is one of the deepest silences in the historical record. Was it a single visionary druid, or a collective of shamans across disparate tribes who simultaneously realized that a branch of yew conducted thought better than a branch of hawthorn? The techniques they used are entirely lost. They did not use metal tools. where metal could cancel or interfere with the delicate natural magic of the wood. They used flint. They used their own hands. They seasoned wood not in a controlled kiln, but in the smoke of a sacred fire for an entire cycle of seasons. The cores, if they used them at all, were not the standardized supreme cores of the modern age. They were fragments of meteorite harvested from a crater. They were talons from a great magical bird long since extinct. They were the heartstrings of a creature birthed by magic itself. The innovation of the first Wandmaker was the realization that the wizard and the wood had to speak the same language. Once that language was established, the power granted was immense, but the cost of getting it wrong was terrible. A wand that did not choose you in that raw era could easily turn your own magic against you. How early wands differed from the refined instruments of the modern age comes down to temperament and consistency. An Ollivander wand is a precise tool. It is designed to perform a vast array of spells with reliable efficiency. An ancient wand was not. It was a specialist. It might have been exceptionally good at healing or herbology, but terrible at defensive magic. It was also fiercely loyal to the point of being unusable by anyone else. Wands in the B.C. era often died with their owners, being buried alongside them in their barrows. The modern concept of a wand switching allegiance through conquest was much rarer, because the wand was so deeply intertwined with the biological and spiritual life of its original wizard. To wield a wand that was not your own was not just difficult, it was considered an act of deep cosmic trespass. The furniture of magic was raw, honest and organic. It was not industry, it was nature. You can see the shape of the forest in these early artifacts. You can feel the dew on the morning the branch was taken. This intimate understanding of the raw power of the natural world, of the specific properties of bark, leaf and root, did not vanish when Rome marched into Britannia. It was codified. It was written into the very soil of the British magical tradition by a specific group of ancient magical botanists who saw the world entirely differently than their Roman counterparts. They understood that power came from the land, and their legacy is the reason we use vine for wands today, and why the wood of a wand is just as important as its core. This specific tradition, built on the very ancient origins we have traced tonight, is the foundation of the next leg of our journey. We are, of course, speaking of the legacy of the Druids. The philosophy, the botany, and the deep green magic they preserved shapes every wand that has ever been made from the forests of the British Isles. To fully understand the history of Wandlore, you must stand in the groves of the Druids, and that is precisely where we will go next. As we open the chapter on the Druidic tradition and botany, they held the secrets of the trees, and those secrets are waiting for you. The earliest Wandmakers were not the polished shopkeepers of Diagon Alley. Before the Ollivanders standardized the craft with their strict hierarchies of core and wood, the true masters of this ancient discipline were found living in the shadows of the forest themselves. The transition from raw magical channeling to focused tool-assisted casting found its deepest expression not in a workshop, but in the living, breathing, sacred groves of ancient Britain. This is where the history of Wandlore becomes inseparable from the history of its first great interpreters, the Druids. The ancient Druids were the original masters of British Wandlore. This is not a matter of myth or speculation. It is the bedrock upon which the entire European tradition of wandmaking is built. Their understanding of magic was fundamentally different from our own. They did not see a wand as a manufactured object assembled from parts. They saw it as an extension of the natural world, a living entity that had chosen to enter into a pact with a wizard. Every tree to the Druids possessed a spirit, a consciousness. Cutting it for use in a wand required a complex ritual of asking permission, of giving thanks, and of honouring the sacrifice. To understand their craft, you must first understand their landscape. The Druids operated under a unique botanical definition that drastically expanded the palette of the wandmaker. To them, it was not strictly the towering oak or the ancient yew. A tree was any plant that possessed a woody stem. This single, seemingly simple redefinition transformed the humble vine, the bramble and the twisting ivy into sacred trees. They were no longer lesser plants. They were equals to the mightiest oak, equally worthy of being shaped into an instrument of magic. This is the deep, hidden roots of the tradition of making wands from vine. It is a tradition that stretches back thousands of years. Buried beneath the surface of modern Wandlore, when Garrick Ollivander, in the early 20th century, chose to make wands from vine, he was not inventing a new fashion. He was resurrecting a forgotten ritual. He was reaching directly back through the ages to the Druidic definition, to the belief that the spirit of a tree could live in any stem that would not snap in the wind. The next time you read a description of a vine wand, with its tendency to find owners of great ambition or hidden depths, remember that its very essence is a relic of a time when the definition of a tree was a matter of spiritual law, not botanical classification. Druidic beliefs fundamentally shaped the selection of magical woods. The creation of a wand was an act of profound divination. The wood was not chosen for its density or its availability. It was chosen for its spiritual resonance with the bearer. The Druids operated on the rhythms of the Celtic tree calendar, where each tree species governed a specific time of year and was imbued with specific magical properties. Hawthorn for protection and healing, holly for strength and courage in battle, oak for endurance and wisdom. The wandmaker would fast, meditate, and observe the positions of the stars before making a cut. They would never use iron to harvest the wood, believing that the cold metal repelled the very life force they sought to contain. This was not a simple transaction. It was a negotiation. The wand had to agree, and if it did not, no amount of skill could force it to yield its power. This belief system explains why the woods in modern wands carry such specific, almost temperamental personalities. The tendency of cherry wood to cast a deadly charm, the steadfast loyalty of holly, the fierce independence of blackthorn. These classifications are not the product of modern laboratory testing. They are not inventions of the Ollivander family. They are the distilled observations of thousands of years of practice, carefully guarded memories of what the Druids taught about the character of the forest. They knew that the wood itself was the primary teacher of the wizard, and the core was merely the channel for its voice. The preservation of Druidic rituals in contemporary wand-making is one of the quietest and most powerful currents in wizarding history. While Ollivander revolutionized the trade by standardizing the cores to the 3 supreme substances, he never forgot the wisdom of the wood, the way a wand is held, the way it is offered to a customer, the sacred moment when it is placed in the hand for the first time. These are echoes of the Druidic rite of union. The very first wands in the British Isles were crude and shabby by later standards, but they were alive with the intent of the maker. The Druids understood that a wand is not a passive conduit. It is an extension of the wizard's will, yes, but it is also an independent entity, with its own preferences, its own loyalties, and its own ancient history inscribed in its grain. So when a wand chooses a wizard, it is engaging in a ritual as old as our civilization. The wand of vine carries within it the spirit of a tree that defied a narrow definition. The Druids looked at a creeping vine and saw a mighty oak. They looked at a simple branch and saw a partner for life. They saw the forest as a library of souls, each one waiting to meet the witch or wizard whose fate was written in the same stars. This sacred wisdom did not remain isolated within the misty groves of the British Isles. The tools, the techniques, and the very philosophy of the Druids were destined to travel. As the tribes of Europe began to connect, a great exchange of magical knowledge began. This knowledge did not travel through books alone, because books were scarce. It traveled through the hands of merchants and the crossing of borders. In the next chapter, we will walk those ancient roads ourselves, tracing the path of the first great cultural convergence in wand-making history. We will uncover the story of the Celtic-Roman trade networks, a critical moment of meeting and transformation that would forever change the landscape of Wandlore. and set the stage for the empires of magic that were yet to come. The Druids had long held the secrets of Wandlore, treating every woody stem as a sacred tree, weaving vine into wands that hummed with the energy of the living earth. But that knowledge, as ancient as the mist-shrouded hills, was never meant to stay locked in one place. Around 400 years before the Common Era, something shifted. The Celtic tribes, who had honed their craft in isolation, began to look outward. Their wands were no longer just talismans for tribal chieftains or tools for seasonal rituals. They became something more, currency of power, a bridge between worlds. You see, the magical communities of Europe were not as separate as the non-magical histories would have you believe. While Roman legions marched along dusty roads and built their aqueducts, Roman wizards were watching the Celts with keen interest. They had their own traditions, of course, but they lacked the deep, organic understanding of wood and spirit that the Druids possessed. And so around 400 BC, the first great wave of magical commerce began. Celtic tribes, particularly those in what is now Gaul and Britain, started trading wands with the Roman Empire. It was not a conquest, it was an exchange. Imagine a clearing in the forest, far from the bustle of Roman markets. A Druid wandmaker sits cross-legged, a pile of fresh-cut vine beside him. A Roman envoy approaches, cloaked in wool and carrying a pouch of silver. They do not speak the same tongue, but they share a common language. The flicker of a wand tip, the silent acknowledgement of a core that chooses its wielder. The Celtic wandmaker hands over a bundle of wands, each one wrapped in linen. The Roman takes them, feels the subtle pulse of magic, and in return offers not just coin, but knowledge, scrolls on magical theory, written in precise, disciplined script. This is how secrets began to flow. The Celts had always worked by intuition, by feeling the wood and listening to the whispers of their ancestors. The Romans brought something different: structure. They wrote down observations, categorized wand behaviors, and began to see patterns. A wand that was too long might be unwieldy. One too short might lack the reach for certain incantations. They began to argue for consistency, not to strip the craft of its mystery, but to make it reliable, reproducible. And so, for the first time, wand length started to become standardized. No longer would a wizard receive a wand that was simply whatever length felt right in the moment. Instead, measurements were taken, fingers and forearms were compared, and a range of acceptable lengths emerged. A 7-inch wand for a child, an 11-inch for an adult. The Druids resisted at first, but they could not deny that Roman discipline made the magic stronger, more predictable. The influence went both ways. Roman wizards learned to respect the wood, to understand that a wand was not a tool to be commanded, but a partner to be courted. And the Celts learned to write their knowledge down, to pass it through generations, without relying solely on memory and oral tradition. This cultural convergence was not always peaceful. There were tensions, disagreements over who held the true secrets. But it was, in the long run, transformative. The trade networks of the 4th century BC laid the foundation for what would become the entire European wand industry. And yet, even as the Celts and Romans mingled their magic, a new force was stirring on the horizon. Far to the south, on the Italian peninsula, a family had been watching these exchanges with great interest. They were not content to simply buy wands from the Celts or learn from the Romans. They wanted to perfect the craft themselves, to create something that would outlast empires. That family would soon make its way to Britain, carrying with them a name that would become synonymous with Wandlore itself. But that is the story of the Ollivanders, and it is one we will explore in the chapter to come. For now, let the image of that ancient clearing linger, the scent of vine sap, the weight of silver coins, the silent understanding between two wizards who knew that a wand could hold more power than any army. The Celtic-Roman trade networks had opened a door, and through it, the future of wandmaking would walk. The trade networks that linked the Celtic tribes with the Roman Empire did more than move goods across the Channel. They carried secrets, and among the most valuable secrets to cross from the Mediterranean into the misty shores of Britannia was the name Ollivander. That name, destined to become synonymous with wandmaking itself, arrived not as a whisper of legend, but as a family of craftsmen walking the same roads as Roman legions. You see, the Ollivanders were not native to the British Isles. Their origins lay in the sun-baked workshops of the Roman world, where the art of wandmaking had been refined over centuries under the influence of Greek, Egyptian, and Etruscan magical traditions. When the Romans expanded their empire northward, they brought more than soldiers and governors. They brought their architects, their engineers, and their wandmakers. Among those wandmakers, one family stood apart, the Ollivanders. They did not come as conquerors. They came as merchants, bearing a craft that would quietly transform the very foundation of magical practice in Britain. Before the Ollivanders, the wands used by British wizards were by all accounts crude and shabby. The indigenous tradition, deeply rooted in Druidic practices, produced wands that were functional but far from refined. They were often carved from local woods, without the subtle treatments that allowed a wand to truly bond with its user. The cores, too, were unpredictable, sometimes harvested from the same creature, sometimes from whatever magical substance the maker had on hand. There was no standard of quality, no consistency. A wizard might inherit a wand that worked well enough for its previous owner, but felt dead and unresponsive in a new hand. The wand chose no one, because the wand itself had never been taught how to choose. The Ollivanders changed that. They brought with them a Mediterranean sensibility, a reverence for precision, for proportion, for the elegant balance between wood and core. They understood that a wand is not a simple tool, but a living extension of the wizard's soul, and that building such an instrument required not just skill, but a philosophy. They introduced techniques that had been perfected in the workshops of ancient Rome. Techniques for curing wood over slow fires, for embedding cores with surgical care, for attuning the wand to the magical signature of its future owner before it ever left the bench. The result was a wand that seemed to breathe, that hummed with intention, that reached out to the wizard who held it. Local wizards, accustomed to their rough-hewn sticks, were astonished. Word spread quickly. Here was a wand that did not merely channel magic, but enhanced it. A wand that felt alive. A wand that, when placed in the right hand, seemed to light up from within. The crude wands of the Druids, however steeped in ancient wisdom, could not compete. They were set aside, traded in, or simply abandoned. Within a generation, the Ollivander style had become the standard. It was in Londinium, the bustling heart of Roman Britain, that the family established their first permanent wand shop. The shop was modest by later standards, a narrow frontage on a cobbled street, with a wooden sign carved with the family name, and a single wand resting in a velvet-lined case in the window. But that shop was more than a place of business. It was a statement. The Ollivanders were here to stay. They had not come to plunder or to rule. They had come to serve, to craft, and to perfect. The shop became a gathering place for the magical community, a hub where wizards could test wand after wand until one chose them. And every time a wand found its match, the Ollivanders learned something new about the relationship between wood, core, and soul. This was the beginning of a dynasty. The first permanent wand shop in Britain marked a shift from scattered, itinerant wandmakers to a settled tradition of excellence. It also marked the moment when the wizardry of the British Isles began to look outward, integrating the best of continental craftsmanship with local magical heritage. The Druidic reverence for nature did not disappear. It was absorbed, refined, and elevated. The vine wands of the Druids would one return, but only after the Ollivander method had taught the world what a wand could truly be. And so the stage was set for a date that would become legendary. 382 before the Common Era. That year is carved into the sign above the Ollivander shop in Diagon Alley, but its meaning runs far deeper than a simple founding date. It represents the birth of a lineage, a standard, and a mystery that would endure for more than 2,000 years. How did the Ollivanders arrive at that precise number? What happened in that ancient year that made them choose it as their origin? The answer lies in the founding of a dynasty, and the story of how one family's dedication to the art of wandmaking shaped the entire magical world. That tale is waiting for us in the next chapter. 382, before the Common Era and the founding of a dynasty. When the Ollivander family first crossed into Britain alongside the Roman legions, they brought with them not only the refined techniques of Mediterranean wandmaking, but a quiet ambition that would reshape the entire magical world. For centuries, the native Druids had crafted wands from vine and oak, from hazel and holly, using the living wood of the British Isles in rituals that blended magic with nature itself. Yet the wands that emerged from Ollivander hands were different, sleeker, more responsive, and unnervingly precise. Within a few generations, the family had not only established themselves, but had laid the foundation for a dynasty that would outlast empires. The date etched above the door of their Diagon Alley shop reads 382 before Christ. That single year marks the official founding of the Ollivander Wand Company, a moment that divides magical history into before and after. To understand why that number is so significant, you have to realize that very few institutions in the wizarding world can claim continuous operation for over 2 millennia. The Ministry of Magic did not exist until the 17th century. Hogwarts itself was founded around the year 900-903, but Ollivanders has been selling wands since before the birth of Julius Caesar, since before the fall of the Roman Republic, since before the first stones of any European cathedral were laid. That simple sign, makers of fine wands since 382 BC, is not a boast. It is a claim of lineage that no other wand maker can match. How did one family maintain a monopoly for more than 2,000 years? The answer is woven into the very fabric of their craft. The Ollivanders did not merely sell wands. They became the living memory of Wandlore itself. Every generation inherited not just the shop, but a sacred trust. To know every wand they had ever produced, every core they had ever selected, every wood they had ever shaped. This was not a business empire built on aggressive expansion or ruthless competition. It was built on the quiet, relentless accumulation of knowledge. A wizard who bought a wand from Ollivanders in 50 BC could pass down that wand to a grandchild, and that grandchild could return to the same shop 2 centuries later and find the record of the original purchase in the family archives. That continuity bred trust, and trust bred loyalty. The shop itself evolved slowly, almost imperceptibly, as if it were a living organism adapting to the changing world outside its windows. In the earliest days, when the Romans still patrolled the streets of Londinium, the shop was a modest timber-framed building tucked near the river, where the smell of damp wood and heated metal mingled with the smoke from countless quills. By the medieval period, the shop had moved to Diagon Alley proper, its narrow facade wedged between a cauldron merchant and an apothecary. The interior grew deeper, taller, more cluttered, with shelves that seemed to multiply in the dark as the centuries passed. Dust motes danced in the light of enchanted candles, and the floorboards creaked under the weight of history. Each generation of Ollivanders added a new room, a new staircase, a new hidden alcove where wands waited in patient silence. But the most remarkable feature of the shop was never visible to the customers. Behind the counter, beyond the stacks of wand boxes, lay a chamber that few ever saw. There, in leather-bound ledgers stretching from floor to ceiling, were the secret records kept by the family regarding every wand ever sold. Every single wand, each one's wood, core, length, flexibility, and the date it left the shop was recorded by hand. The earliest entries were written on parchment in ink, made from oak gall and soot, the script cramped and elegant. Later volumes used paper, then vellum, then thicker stock. The names of the buyers were not always recorded, but the wands themselves were catalogued with obsessive precision. It is said that, If you could read those ledgers, you could trace the entire history of British magic through the instruments that channeled it. The wand that helped defeat a Dark Lord in the 15th century. The wand that accidentally set a village on fire in the 17th. The wand that belonged to a young witch who would one day become the headmistress of Hogwarts. All of them there in the silent archives of the Ollivander family. This dedication to record keeping was not mere sentimentality. It was the engine of the monopoly. When a witch or wizard walked into Ollivanders, they were not just buying a tool, they were joining a lineage. The wand they received might have a brother, a wand with the same core creature that had served a hero 1,000 years ago. The family could advise on which wood suited a temperament based on patterns observed over centuries. They knew which cores were prone to accidents, which woods grew more loyal with age, which combinations produced the most startlingly unpredictable magic. No other wandmaker in Europe could compete with that depth of knowledge. The others came and went. A skilled artisan in Paris, a respected craftsman in Vienna, but none could match the Ollivander archive. The monopoly was not enforced by law or by force. It was enforced by sheer overwhelming mastery, and so the shop endured. Through the Dark Ages, when magic was feared and wandmakers worked in secret. Through the Renaissance, when alchemists and scholars sought to understand the principles behind Wandlore. Through the witch hunts, when the family hid their true trade behind simple signboards and coded conversations. Through the great plagues that emptied cities, the wars that shattered nations, the reforms that reorganized magical society, the Ollivanders stayed. They adapted. They kept their ledgers, and they kept their silence. The one that chose a wizard in 382 before Christ was not so different from the wand that chose a wizard in 1991. The wood was the same, the core was the same, the mystery was the same. But as the centuries turned, something else was stirring in the magical world. A force that would challenge the very foundations of Wandlore. The old traditions, the Druidic knowledge, the secrets of the forest, began to converge around a single dangerous idea: the quest for ultimate power. It would not be long before a wand emerged that was not crafted by any mortal hand. A wand that would become the stuff of legend. A wand that would forever change how wizards thought about allegiance and mastery. That story begins with the Peverell family, and it leads to a wand that even the Ollivanders could not fully explain. But that is a tale for the next chapter. A shift into the medieval shadows, where the very nature of Wandlore would be tested by the most forbidden ambition of all. For over 1,500 years, the Ollivander family name had stood as the undisputed pillar of European wandmaking. Their craft passed down through generations since the founding of their shop in 382 BC. By the turn of the first millennium, the wand had become an everyday instrument, a seamless extension of a witch or wizard's will. The monopoly of the Ollivanders had not been seriously challenged. Then came the medieval shift. The 13th century was a strange and contradictory time for the magical world. It was an era of immense power and profound superstition. Non-magical society was deeply immersed in the High Middle Ages, while the wizarding world was experiencing its own volatile renaissance. The International Statute of Secrecy was still centuries away, and magic existed in a fragile coexistence with the mundane, often bleeding directly into local folklore and fairy tales. Wandlore during this period was a discipline caught between the ancient Druidic traditions of the forest and a newer, more ambitious generation of wizards. The simple, reliable wands of the Roman era were being pushed to their limits. The art of the duel was evolving, demanding wands with more power, more speed, and a sharper will to dominate. This hunger for a competitive edge began to warp the old philosophical values of the craft. The core belief of Wandlore, that a wand should be a loyal partner chosen with care, began to compete with a darker desire for a weapon that could assert absolute control. It was into this fertile, dangerous environment that a family of extraordinary wizards emerged. a family whose legend would redefine the very concept of magical power and cost. The Peverell name is ancient in wizarding Britain, synonymous with immense magical talent and a stubborn independence that ran deeper than the roots of the oldest English oaks. The brothers Antioch, Cadmus, and Ignotus Peverell were not wandmakers in the commercial sense, not in the way the Ollivanders were. They were pioneers of experimental magic, individuals who pushed directly against the boundaries of what a wand could be. Their contribution to Wandlore was not about perfecting a stable, reliable tool for everyday spells. It was about exploring the absolute theoretical limits of magical potential. They believed a wand was not merely a conduit for a wizard's power, but a weapon, an artifact capable of storing and focusing a wizard's deepest ambition. This philosophy radicalized the craft. They experimented with core materials that other wandmakers feared to touch, and they selected woods based not on the season of harvest or tradition, but on the darkest and most volatile magical properties they possessed. Their home in the southwest of England, reputedly in the area that would become Godric's Hollow, became a beacon for wizards who felt constrained by the old laws of magic. But it was the eldest brother, Antioch, who carried this philosophy to its most extreme and terrifying conclusion. Antioch Peverell was, by all accounts, a dualist without equal in his generation. He was consumed by the idea that truly unstoppable wizard needed a truly unstoppable wand. In his quest for the ultimate weapon, he travelled to the darkest corners of European magical knowledge, learning secrets that traditional wandmakers like the Ollivanders had deliberately buried or excluded from their records. The result of his obsession was the creation of the most dangerous wand ever known to wizardkind. Its construction was an act of profound magical hubris. According to the deepest layers of the legend, he plucked the wood from an elder tree that grew in a hidden grove touched by death itself. The core was not dragon heartstring, which roars with life, or phoenix feather, which soars with a spirit of independence. It was something far darker, something that aligned perfectly with his pursuit of power over harmony. He used a single hair from the tail of a thestral, a creature that can only be seen by those who have witnessed and fully accepted the reality of death. This combination created a wand of terrifying and absolute power, a wand that craved conflict and actively sought to dominate its wielder. It was a wand built to conquer, not to charm. It did not choose a wizard so much as it demanded a master worthy of its aggression. This was the Elder Wand, the Deathstick, the Wand of Destiny, and its power came with a terrible price that perfectly illustrates the most dangerous trap in Wandlore: the weapon that masters the wizard, rather than the other way around. Antioch, having forged the most dangerous wand in history, found that the very power he sought became his undoing. The legend states he was killed in his sleep, the wand stolen by a rival who coveted its strength. The Elder Wand began its bloody journey through history, a trail of power, betrayal, and death. But here, at this crucial point in the history of Wandlore, we must pause to consider the nature of our source material. The story of the Peverell brothers and the creation of the Elder Wand lives at the exact intersection of folklore and historical fact in the Middle Ages. Historians of the magical world have long debated how much of the Peverell legend is literally true. Did the brothers truly meet death at a forked path by a river after crossing a turbulent stream? Or was this a metaphorical story crafted by later generations to explain a real and terrifying event in human terms? The historical record confirms that the Peverell brothers were absolutely real. A sign in the churchyard of Godric's Hollow bears their iconic symbol. Their bloodline flows directly into the most powerful wizarding families, including the Potter line and the Gaunt family of Slytherin's descent. But the specific tale of how the Elder Wand was created is where history bends fully into myth. The most widely accepted wizarding fairy tale, passed down by the bard Beadle, tells that the wand was shaped by Death himself from a branch of the Elder Tree. But a deeper dive into the mechanics of wand lore suggests a different, perhaps more disturbing reality. there was an elder tree, an ancestral hair core, and an unspeakably powerful act of creation performed by a real wizard with unmatched ambition. The Peverell contribution to lore is not just the wand itself, but the dangerous idea that vulnerability could be permanently overcome through the right magical object. The wand became a legend that blurred the line between a moral fairy tale and a recorded historical artifact. This duality is essential to understanding the medieval shift in wand lore. The Elder Wand was not just a physical tool. It was a story that began to operate with a power all its own, attracting the ambitious and the paranoid for centuries to come. The historical reality of Antioch Peverell may be lost to the mists of the Middle Ages, buried beneath layers of legend and rumour, but his legacy remains the most enduring mystery in wand lore. The story we have of these three brothers, the one that gives us the most profound insight into the medieval shift in the craft of wand-making, was not written in the annals of Ollivanders. It was preserved in a much older, much wilder form. The fable of the three brothers and their encounter with death contains the deepest truths of this era, wrapped in the comforting and familiar guise of a children's bedtime tale. That story is known as the Tale of the Three Brothers. It is to that direct account, the ultimate fairy tale of wand lore, that we must now turn our attention, where the quest for power, the acceptance of loss, and the virtue of humility are weighed against each other by the master of the Elder Wand himself. The name Peverell marks a turning point in our history of wand lore, not strictly because of what the family built, but because of the story that their name forever carries. As we examined in the last chapter, the Peverell brothers emerged during a deeply superstitious age, a 13th century wizarding world struggling to formalize the very craft we are exploring tonight. But the legend that surrounds them is not merely a folk tale. It represents a fundamental fracture in everything we understand about how a wand chooses, how a wand fights, and how a wand dies. The legend of the three brothers is the only story in all of magical history that claims a wand was made not by a wand maker, but by Death himself. And if that legend is to be believed, even as a symbolic truth, it means there exists a wand that operates entirely outside the natural law that governs every other instrument of magic in the world. Let us sit with that implication for a moment. The first law of Wandlore, the axiom upon which every other rule is built, is that the wand chooses the wizard. It is an act of sympathy, of magical resonance between two living spirits. But in the tale, Death does not wait for a wizard to arrive. Death seeks the Peverell brothers out, and when the eldest brother, Antioch Peverell, speaks, his request is a specific and telling one. He does not ask for wisdom. He does not ask for knowledge. He asks for a wand that will let him win every duel. This is a request born of paranoia, or ambition, or perhaps a deep insecurity. He wants an instrument of absolute force, and Death in the story creates exactly that. He goes to an elder tree, retrieves a branch, and fashions it into a wand. Now, real wand makers spend years matching cores to wood, tempering the materials, and waiting for a wizard worthy of the wand to walk through the door. Death created this wand in an instant, for a single purpose. It was not a negotiation, it was a transaction. And because of this, the Elder Wand is not a tool like other wands. It is a weaponized exception to the rules. Master wand makers like Garrick Ollivander would tell you that a wand made of elder wood is rare because elder is a notoriously difficult material. It is said to be highly temperamental, possessing a deep sense of justice, and it will only bond with a wizard who is, itself, exceptional. But the elder wand in the legend seems to ignore this rule entirely. It bonds with whoever holds it, as long as that person has won it. It demands power. It demands conquest. It does not seek compatibility. It seeks victory. This is the darkest deviation of all. Every other wand in existence forms a relationship. It learns from its wizard. It grows with them. The Elder Wand, by its very nature, cannot have a true master. It has only a temporary owner. It is the ultimate mercenary in magical history. And this brings us to the tragic cycle that defines its existence. The The text of the tale tells us that Antioch Peverell boasted of his invincible wand, and within a week, he was found dead in his bed, murdered by another wizard who coveted the wand. This sets the pattern. It is a cycle that historians call the reign of the bloody wand. Over the centuries, the wand passes from hand to hand, almost always violently. Emeric the Evil is said to have owned it, terrorising the south of England until he was slaughtered by Egbert the Egregious. Egbert himself did not last. The wand passed to Godlot, a deeply wicked wizard, who wrote of it as his most treacherous friend. Godlot was imprisoned in his own cellar by his son, Hereward, who took the wand. Hereward died, and the wand continued its bloody pilgrimage. It falls into the hands of Barnabas Deverell, who is killed by Loxias, who renames himself the Ruffian and terrorises the continent. Over and over again, the ambition that Antioch Peverell asked for is the very force that destroys each owner. The wand does not protect them. It ensures they are a target. It is a beacon for conflict. You cannot tame it. You cannot settle with it. You can only hold it until someone stronger takes it from your cold hands. This cycle is not simply ancient history. It directly shapes the 20th century. Gellert Grindelwald stole the Elder Wand from the wandmaker Gregorovitch after years of searching. He used it to begin a war. Albus Dumbledore defeated Grindelwald in their legendary duel of 1945, and the wand's allegiance shifted to him. But Dumbledore understood the cycle. He refused to wield it with the pride of Antioch Peverell. He tried to break the cycle by planning his own death, so that the wand's power would die with him. But he made a critical error. He failed to consider that the wand's allegiance is not governed by a wizard's intention. It is governed by a wizard's victory. Draco Malfoy disarmed Dumbledore on the Astronomy Tower. The wand did not care about the story. It did not care about Dumbledore's plan. It saw that Draco had won the wand, and it chose to serve him. This subtle, terrible detail proves that the legend of the three brothers is more than a fable. It proves that the wand operates on a cold, almost mechanical principle of dominance. There is no love in the Elder Wand. There is no loyalty. There is only the law of the duel. And yet, for all its bloody history, the Elder Wand remains a deeply mysterious object. The legend tells us that Death made it, but it does not tell us how he did it. What was so special about the branch of the Elder Tree he chose? And more importantly, what core did he place inside it? In a world of unicorn hair, dragon heartstring, and phoenix feather, the Elder Wand contains a substance that is almost universally overlooked by wandmakers. The hair of a thestral. This choice is not incidental. It tells us everything about the wand's true nature. Thestrals are invisible to those who have not witnessed death. They are creatures intimately bound to the transition between life and death. A core of thestral hair is not simply a magical component. It is a philosophical statement. It is a conduit for the very force that created it. So, having traced the bloody path of this wand through centuries of conquest, we must now look inside it. We must understand the materials that make it the exception to every rule. This brings us to the undeniable reality of the object itself. It is time to examine the composition of the Elder Wand. So the story of the three brothers ends with a warning, but for Wandlore historians, it marks the beginning of a far stranger mystery. The Elder Wand, the object that Death himself supposedly crafted from an elder tree, defies every rule that wandmakers have spent 2,000 years trying to establish. And while the tale is legend, the wand is real. Its composition is unlike any other wand in recorded history, and its materials are chosen not for harmony or balance, but for something far darker. Let us begin with the wood itself. Elder is not a typical wand wood. In fact, for centuries, wandmakers avoided it entirely. Garrick Ollivander once noted that elder wood is notoriously difficult to master. It holds immense power, but it is also deeply unlucky. In the folklore of the non-magical world, elder trees were associated with witches and curses. The wood was said to bleed when cut, and to bring misfortune to anyone who carried it without true ownership. Magical communities took this reputation seriously. There are records from as early as the 12th century of wandmakers refusing to work with elder, believing that a wand made from it would inevitably turn on its master. Some even claim that the wood possessed a kind of consciousness, a will that resented being bound into a tool. But the elder wand is not merely a wand made from elder wood. It is the eldest of the three deathly hallows, and its wood is said to have been taken directly from a tree that grew beside a river of the dead. Whether that is literal or symbolic, the properties of elder wood are consistent with the wand's legend. Elder is one of the few woods that actually improves with age. Instead of becoming brittle, it grows more flexible and more responsive over the centuries. The elder wand has survived for over 700 years, and it is still as powerful as the day it was allegedly created. No other wand made from elder has ever matched its longevity or its strength. Now we come to the core, thestral hair. This is the rarest of all wand cores and the most misunderstood. Thestrals are invisible to those who have not witnessed death, and their hair is imbued with that same elusive connection to mortality. When Garrick Ollivander investigated the elder wand in the 20th century, he was stunned to discover a thestral hair core. He had never encountered one before, and he would never attempt to recreate it. Why? Because thestral hair is one of the most unstable magical substances known to Wandlore. It resonates with death, with endings, with the moment when life passes into darkness. A wand with a thestral hair core does not simply perform magic. It amplifies any intention that is linked to finality. Curses, hexes, even healing spells that require the removal of a sickness all gain a terrible edge from such a core. But the elder wand's core is unique. The thestral hair inside it is not like the hair from a common thestral. In the legend, Death plucked the hair from his own cloak, which itself was woven from the mane of a thestral that had carried souls across the veil. Whether or not that is true, the result is a core that is incredibly attuned to power and dominance. It does not seek loyalty. It does not form bonds. It simply responds to whoever has defeated its previous master. That is the fundamental difference between the elder wand and every other wand in existence. All other wands choose their wizard based on compatibility of character, skill, and destiny. The elder wand chooses only the victor. It is a wand that rewards conquest, not partnership, and that is precisely why no other wandmaker has ever successfully replicated its power. Many have tried. Over the centuries, there have been at least a dozen documented attempts to create a wand with elder wood and thestral hair. Every single one ended in disaster. The wands would explode during the first spell, or they would refuse to produce any magic at all, or they would curse the maker with a lingering illness. The combination of elder and thestral hair is simply too volatile. It requires a specific kind of resonance, a perfect alignment of intention and sacrifice that cannot be forced. The elder wand was not made in a workshop. It was made in a moment of myth, and that moment cannot be recreated. Physically, the elder wand is unmistakable. It is a pale whitish colour, almost like bone. It is longer than most wands, measuring 15 inches, which is unusually long. The surface is not smooth. It has a knobby texture, with small knots and ridges that look almost like vertebrae. Some historians have described it as resembling a spinal column, or a branch that has been stripped of its bark and then scarred by time. There are no elaborate carvings, no jeweled handles, no decorative flourishes. The elder wand is stark and functional, and yet if you look closely, there are faint lines etched into the wood, almost invisible, like veins. These lines seem to shift depending on the light. Some researchers believe they are runes from an ancient language, perhaps connected to death itself. Others think they are simply natural grain, made more pronounced by the wand's age. But the most distinctive feature of the elder wand is the hidden carving at its base. Just above the grip, there is a barely perceptible indentation. It is shaped like a crescent moon, but with a vertical line through its center. Some interpret this as a rune for division or separation. Others see it as a symbol of the horizon, the boundary between life and death. Whatever it means, It is not a mark that any wandmaker has ever recognized from known traditions. It appears to have been burned into the wood, not carved, and it is the only intentional decoration on the entire wand. When you hold the Elder Wand, the most common description from those who have wielded it is a feeling of immense cold, not painful but absolute, as if all the warmth of life has been drained away and replaced by a calm, waiting silence. That is the signature of the Thestral hair core. It does not hum with life like a phoenix feather wand. It does not pulse with warmth like unicorn hair. It simply waits. It observes. And it remembers every master it has ever served. Now the Elder Wand has a reputation for being unbeatable in duel, but that is only half the truth. It is unbeatable when its wielder has truly mastered it, but the wand itself has no loyalty. It shifts allegiance the moment its owner is defeated, even if that defeat is accidental or indirect. That is why its history is so bloody. It passes from hand to hand, never settling, never forming a true bond. That is also why it is called the Deathstick, not just because of its association with the legend, but because of the trail of death that follows it. And yet, there is a darker side to its history that Wandlore rarely discusses. The Elder Wand has been used in ways that go beyond simple dueling. It has been employed in rituals that most wizards would never speak aloud, spells that require a wand of immense power, and a core that can withstand the weight of death itself. That is the subject we must turn to next. The Elder Wand has a second name, one that is whispered in the darkest corners of magical history. It is called the Deathstick, and its story is a litany of violence, betrayal, and forbidden magic. That story awaits in our next chapter. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. From the moment we learn that the Elder Wand is crafted from elder wood, a tree long associated with death and misfortune, and cored with thestral hair, a substance visible only to those who have witnessed mortality, we began to understand that this wand is no ordinary instrument of magic. It is a weapon designed for a single purpose, to dominate. And the history of this wand, known to some as the Deathstick, is not a story of wise wizards seeking power for good. It is a chronicle of bloodshed, betrayal, and a relentless cycle of violence that stretches across centuries. Let us now follow the trail of the Elder Wand as it passes from hand to hand, each transfer marked by brutality. The legend tells us that the eldest Peverell brother was murdered in his sleep for the wand, mere days after receiving it from death. That first theft set the pattern. From that moment on, wand was never given freely. It was always taken, always by force, and almost always by assassination. This is the dark history of the Deathstick, and it is a story we must tell with care, for it reveals the deepest truths about Wandlore and about human nature. Tracking the Elder Wand's path through historical assassinations is like following a map drawn in blood. The wand passed from the Peverell brother to his killer, and then to the killer's next victim, and so on, down through the ages. Medieval chronicles speak of a warlock named Emeric the Evil, who is said to have obtained the Elder Wand in the early 14th century and used it to terrorize much of Europe. He murdered its previous owner, a wandmaker named Godaloc, who had himself written a dark treatise on the wand's power. Godaloc called it the Deathstick, a name that stuck. Emeric the Evil did not hold the wand for long. He was slain by another wizard, Egbert the Egregious, who then claimed the wand, and so the pattern continued. Each new master killed the previous master, or was killed in turn. The bloody trail left by wizards seeking the ultimate weapon is not a metaphor. It is a literal record of murder. By the 15th century, the wand had passed through the hands of at least a dozen killers. One of the most notorious was Loxias, who murdered his own father to take the wand. He then used it to conquer a small kingdom in what is now Greece. But even he could not escape the cycle. He was eventually overthrown and killed by a wizard named Herpo the Foul, who was himself later assassinated. The wand seemed to carry a curse. It promised supreme power, but it also guaranteed a violent end. This raises a crucial question about Wandlore, a question that goes to the very heart of how allegiance works. How the wand's allegiance is won through murder versus simple defeat is not just a technical distinction. It is the key to understanding why the Elder Wand is so dangerous. For ordinary wands, allegiance can be transferred by disarming an opponent, by winning a duel, without killing. But the Elder Wand operates differently. It is supremely sensitive to power. It demands conquest. And throughout history, the most effective way to conquer a wizard who holds the Elder Wand is to kill them. Simple defeat, such as a disarming spell, may sometimes work, but the wand's legend and reputation have driven its seekers to murder. Because the wand is known to be invincible in a direct duel, the only way to take it is by treachery, by stealth, or by assassination. The wand rewards absolute victory, and for centuries absolute victory meant death. And what of the wizards who held it? The psychological toll on those who possess the most powerful wand is immense. History records that many of them became paranoid, isolated, and consumed by fear. They knew that every rival, every ally, every stranger could be the one who would take the wand from them. They slept with protective enchantments, surrounded themselves with Death Eaters and minions, and still they could not escape the inevitability of the cycle. Some, like the wizard known as Barnabas Deverell, grew so terrified that they locked themselves in a tower, only to be murdered by their own servant. Others, like the mysterious warlock known only as the Master of the Deathstick, became megalomaniacal, convinced that the wand made them untouchable, and then they died, just like all the rest. The Elder Wand is not merely a wand. It is a testament to the corruption that absolute power can bring. And yet, despite this dark history, the wand continued to be sought after. It passed through the ages, always hidden, always changing hands, always leaving a trail of bodies. By the time it reached the 20th century, its legend had grown so great that it attracted the attention of the most dangerous wizard of the modern age, Gellert Grindelwald. But before we reach that point, we must understand that the story of the Elder Wand is not just European. The wand's influence spread across the Atlantic, carried by those who sought to escape its curse, or to wield it in a new world. And that is where we turn next, to the story of a witch who fled persecution and found herself in a land without Wandmakers. Her name was Isolt Sayre, and her journey would give birth to a new branch of Wandlore entirely. But that is a tale for our next chapter, when we venture into the wilds of North America and discover how the ancient traditions of Europe were transformed by the New World. We left the Elder Wand on a bloody trail through the centuries, passing from hand to hand in a chain of violence that stretched across Europe and beyond. That wand, the most infamous in history, was born of death and nourished by ambition. But while the Deathstick carved its legend into the old world, another story was unfolding far away, across the Atlantic, in a land where Wandlore would take root in startling new soil. This is the story of Isolt Sayre, the first wandmaker of North America, and of how a stolen wand and a dream of freedom gave birth to an entirely new tradition. Isolt Sayre was born into a pure-blood family in Ireland, a direct descendant of the legendary witch Morrigan MacLeod, a lineage steeped in ancient magic. Yet her childhood was anything but blessed. Her parents were killed in a fire of mysterious origin, and she was taken in by her cruel aunt, Gormlaith Gaunt, a descendant of Salazar Slytherin, who despised anything less than pure wizarding supremacy. Gormlaith raised Isolt in isolation, forbidding her from attending Hogwarts, and instead taught her a bitter version of magic, one laced with hatred and control. The only source of warmth in that cold home was the memory of her mother's wand, a wand that Gormlaith had kept locked away. Isolt had never held it, but she felt its presence, a silent pulse of allegiance waiting for its rightful owner. The breaking point came when Isolt was a teenager. Gormlaith intended to force her into a marriage with a cruel and powerful wizard. On the eve of that fateful union, Isolt made a choice that would change history. She crept into her aunt's chamber, unlocked the chest, and retrieved her mother's wand. It was a wand of hornbeam and dragon heartstring, a combination that favours a fierce, single-minded owner. As her fingers closed around the handle, the wand recognised her. It had been waiting, and with that wand in hand, she fled into the night. She escaped Ireland by ship, a stowaway bound for the New World. The crossing was treacherous, but Isolt felt a strange freedom in the salt spray and the endless grey ocean. She had no plan, only a burning determination to start anew, to build a life where her past could not reach her. When she finally set foot on the shores of what would become Massachusetts, she carried nothing but that stolen wand and a heart full of dreams. The American wilderness was vast and untamed, a land of towering forests and strange creatures, where magic hummed differently than it did in Europe. She walked for days, until she found a mountain that felt alive, its slopes covered in ancient trees that seemed to watch her. There on that mountain, she built a small cabin, and for the first time in her life, she felt safe. But safety was not the end of her journey. The wand she held was not just a tool. It was a bridge to her heritage, a reminder of the magic her mother had loved. And as she explored this new world, she began to wonder, if European Wandlore had flourished for over 2,000 years, what might this continent offer? The trees were different, the creatures were different, and the very essence of magic seemed to pulse with a rhythm she had never felt. She began to experiment, to learn the properties of local woods, to seek out the magical beasts hidden in the forests. She wanted to create a wand that would reflect the spirit of America, not just an imitation of what she had left behind. Then she met James Stewart, a nomad, a non-magical man who had also fled his own past. Their love was forbidden by every wizarding law of the time. But Isolt had already broken so many rules. They married, and together they built a home on that mountain. Soon they found 2 abandoned boys, orphans of the New World, and adopted them. Those boys became the first students of a school Isolt never planned to found, but which grew naturally out of her need to teach, to share the wandlore she was developing. That school would one day be called Ilvermorny. In those early years, Ilvermorny was little more than a cottage school, its lessons built on the foundations of European wandlore. Isolt taught the children how to match wood to personality, how to prepare cores, how to feel the subtle vibrations of magic in a branch. But she relied heavily on the technique she had learned from her mother and from the writings of old European wandmakers. The first wands she made for her sons were crafted from the only wood she could trust, hawthorn and birch, trees she knew from Ireland. The cores she used were from a river serpent she had slain herself, a dangerous creature that had threatened her family. That serpent would become a symbol of American wandlore, but at the time, Isolt was simply using what she had, adapting out of necessity. The real transformation came when she began to explore the deeper magic of the Americas. She discovered that the wood of the dogwood tree sang with a quiet, protective energy. She learned that the vines of the passion flower could be woven into a wand that hummed with emotional power. She encountered a great horned serpent, a legendary creature that slithered through the waterways, whose horn could be ground into a core of rare sensitivity. That serpent would not be killed, but rather it gave a piece of its horn willingly to Isolt, recognizing her as a kindred spirit. This was the moment American wandlore began to diverge from its European roots. The relationship between wandmaker and magical creature was not one of domination but of exchange, a partnership born from the wild new land. Isolt's wands began to reflect this philosophy. They were less rigid, more attuned to the individual wizard's heart. She abandoned the strict birth date calendar that European makers used, instead teaching that the wand chooses based on the wizard's nature, not the day of their birth. She wove into her creations the Celtic calendar she had grown up with, but she merged it with the rhythms of the American seasons, the flood of the rivers, the fall of the leaves. Each wand became a story, a map of the wizard's soul. But the old world would not forget her. Gormlaith Gaunt, furious at Isolt's escape, tracked her across the ocean. She arrived at Ilvermorny one night, intent on destroying everything Isolt had built. It was the stolen wand, her mother's wand, that saved them all. In a duel that shook the mountain, Isolt faced her aunt, and the hornbeam wand blazed with a light that had never been seen in Europe. It was the wand of a woman who had chosen freedom over fear, and it would not be conquered. Gormlaith was defeated, and her dark magic was buried beneath the school. From that day, Ilvermorny grew in stature, becoming the heart of wizarding education in North America. But the Wandlore born there remained distinct. The wands of America were not just tools. They were living artifacts of a land that demanded respect. They used woods like maple, witch hazel, and the mighty red oak. They employed cores from the wampus cat, the jackalope, and the horned serpent itself. Each creation told a story of adaptation, of a people who had left behind the old hierarchies and built something new from the wilderness. And yet, even as Isolt established this tradition, she never forgot her roots. She kept her mother's wand until her dying day, passing it down to her descendants. That wand, the first wand of American Wandlore, still exists, a relic of a flight from tyranny and a dream of a new world. It reminds us that the deepest magic often arises not from power, but from the courage to begin again. Now, as Isolt's legacy took shape, another force was stirring in the shadows of the American forests. A creature of ancient lore whose horn held secrets that even the bravest wandmaker had only begun to understand. That creature would one day give its name to a core that changed everything, and its story would become the next chapter in the long history of Wandlore. When Isolt Sayre arrived on the shores of North America, she carried with her a wand that was never truly hers. The wand she had stolen from her aunt, Gormlaith Gaunt, was made of English woods and European cores, steeped in the traditions of a continent she had left behind forever. But as she built a new life in the mountains of New England, alongside her non-magical husband James Stewart, Isolt began to realise that the land itself was calling for something new. The forests were dense with unfamiliar trees. The creatures that lurked in the shadows were like nothing she had seen in Ireland, and the magic that pulsed through this ancient soil was raw, wild, and waiting to be shaped. It was in these early years of the 17th century, as Isolt and James adopted the twin boys Chadwick and Webster Boot, that the seeds of American Wandlore were truly sown. The brothers had been found shipwrecked and orphaned, and as they grew, Isolt knew they needed wands of their own, but she had no way to return to Europe, no contact with the Ollivander family or any other traditional wandmaker. She had only her own knowledge, her husband's ingenuity, and the mysterious horn of a horned serpent she had encountered in the highlands near her home. That encounter became the foundation of an entirely new branch of Wandlore. The horned serpent was a creature Isolt had never seen before, a great water-dwelling beast with a jewel-like crystals set into its brow and long, pearlescent horns that shimmered with an inner light. In European bestiaries, such a creature was barely a whisper, a myth carried back by adventurous witches who had sailed west and never returned. But here, it was real. And when Isolt stood before that serpent in a moonlit pond, she felt a connection unlike any she had known. The creature lowered its head and she reached out, taking a single shaving from its horn without a word. It was an act of mutual respect, not conquest. This single moment, this quiet innovation, changed the course of wandmaking across an entire continent. Isolt Sayre's use of horned serpent horn shavings as a wand core was a radical departure from the European traditions she had grown up with. In London, Paris and Rome, the great wandmakers had settled on a handful of supreme cores, dragon heartstring, unicorn hair, phoenix feather, and believed these were the only materials worthy of a true wand. But Isolt discovered that the horn of a horned serpent possessed a unique sensitivity, a responsiveness to magic that was unlike anything the old world had ever catalogued. A wand cord with horned serpent horn seemed to have an almost prophetic quality. It could sense shifting intentions before they were fully formed, alerting its wielder to hidden dangers and subtle changes in the magical atmosphere. But that was only the beginning. As word of Isolt's success spread among the magical settlers of North America, other wandmakers began experimenting with the local fauna. They quickly discovered that the creatures of this new land offered an astonishing range of magical properties, many of which had no direct equivalent in European lore. The Wampus cat, a great magical panther native to the Appalachian Mountains, produced a core that was aggressive, swift, and ideal for dueling. The Thunderbird, a giant avian creature whose very wings could summon storms, yielded tail feathers that carried the raw power of the sky, granting its wands a majestic and often unpredictable temperament. And the Rougarou, a wolf-like creature from the swamps of Louisiana, produced a core that was fiercely loyal and deeply attuned to primal magic. These American cores did not simply mimic their European counterparts. They brought a completely different personality to the wand. This is where the temperamental divide between European and American wand cores becomes most fascinating. European wandmakers, especially the Ollivander family, prized consistency and control. Dragon Heartstring was powerful, but prone to accidents, yet it learned quickly and could be tamed by a wizard of sufficient will. Unicorn Hair was the most faithful, the least prone to dark magic, and produced a wand that was steadfast and true. Phoenix Feather was the rarest, the most temperamental, capable of the greatest range of magic, but also the most difficult to master. Each of these cores had been refined over centuries, their properties documented, their risks understood. The American wand cores, by contrast, defied tidy classification. They were products of a land that was still being explored, a frontier where magic was not yet fully mapped. A horned serpent core did not simply learn from its wielder. It seemed to know things before the wizard did, guiding decisions in ways that could feel almost intrusive. A Wampus cat core was fiercely independent and would only bond with a witch or wizard of exceptional courage and directness. A Thunderbird core was vast and stormy, producing magic that was spectacular but difficult to control. These wands demanded a different kind of relationship, more like a partnership between equals than a master and a tool. And this became the defining legacy of the Sayre Steward wandmaking tradition. Isolt and James did not simply copy the old world. They innovated, they adapted. They built a school, Ilvermorny, where the woods chosen for each student's wand were linked not to European fashion, but to the Celtic tree calendar, a system Isolt had learned from her father. This calendar connected the date of birth to a specific tree, and the wandwood was chosen accordingly, creating a deeply personal bond between the young witch or wizard and their first instrument of magic. It was a tradition that had no equivalent at Hogwarts, where wand selection was based purely on compatibility with the wand itself, not on the calendar of the student birth. The Sayre Steward lineage continued through Isolt adoptive sons and their descendants. By the time Rappaport law was enacted in 1692, which forbade children from possessing wands until they arrived at Ilvermorny, and required them to leave their wands at the school during holidays. Until age 17, the American wand-making tradition was already distinct, vibrant, and irreplaceable. American wand-makers no longer looked to Europe for validation. They had their own creatures, their own woods, their own philosophy. When we consider the full tapestry of Wandlore, the contribution of Isolt Sayre and James Steward stands as a testament to the power of necessity and creativity. They had no ancient shop, no centuries of accumulated knowledge, handed down from generation to generation. They had only a stolen wand, a horned serpent horn, and the courage to trust the magic of a new land. That trust paid off in ways they could never have imagined. And yet, even as Isolt built something entirely new, she never forgot the old traditions. Her use of the Celtic tree calendar was a direct link to her Druidic heritage, a reminder that the roots of Wandlore run deep into the ancient forests of Europe. The calendar itself, with its 13 trees and their corresponding months, would become a guiding principle for generations of Ilvermorny Wandmakers, a system that blended the old world with the new. It is this fusion, this marriage of ancient Celtic wisdom and American innovation, that makes the story of Wandlore so endlessly fascinating. And as we prepare to explore the Celtic tree calendar in greater detail, we will see just how deeply the rhythms of the natural world shape the very wands we hold in our hands. The trees themselves have stories to tell, stories of birth, growth, death, and rebirth. Stories that connect every witch and wizard to the cycle of the seasons and the ancient magic of the earth. That story is waiting for us, just beyond the horizon of this chapter. Isolt Sayre's innovation in the New World reshaped Wandlore in ways she could never have fully anticipated. After forging wands from the horned serpent's horn and the wood of local trees, she began to notice a deeper pattern, one that echoed across the Atlantic, linking back to the ancient traditions of the Druids who had once roamed the misty forests of her homeland. Isolt had carried with her not only a stolen wand, but also the memory of a much older system, a secret language whispered by leaves and bark. That system was the Celtic tree calendar, and it held the key to understanding why certain woods resonated so profoundly with certain witches and wizards. But to grasp its full significance, we must step back from the shores of Massachusetts and return to the shadowed groves of pre-Roman Britain, where the very concept of time was carved into the rings of living trees. The Celtic tree calendar was not merely a way to mark the passing of months. It was a sacred framework, a zodiac written in wood and sap. The Druids, those enigmatic priests and scholars of the Celtic world, believed that every person was born under the influence of a specific tree, whose qualities would shape their character and destiny. This belief was rooted in a worldview that saw no separation between the natural and the supernatural. Trees were not just resources, they were ancestors, protectors, and teachers. Each species had its own spirit, its own unique magic, and so, by determining the date of a wizard's birth, a druidic wandmaker could identify the ideal wood, the one that would resonate most harmoniously with that individual's soul. It was a practice far older than the standardized systems of later centuries, a personalized approach that treated every wand as a living bond between person and plant. Let us explore the symbolic meanings behind four of the most significant trees in this calendar: rowan, ash, oak, and holly. The rowan, sometimes called the mountain ash, was associated with the month of January and the season of quickening winter. Its wood was prized for its protective qualities. In Celtic mythology, rowan trees were planted near homes to ward off evil spirits, and a wand made from rowan was believed to be particularly adept at defensive magic. Wizards born under the rowan, typically between the 21st of January and the 17th of February, were thought to be natural guardians, quick-witted and fiercely loyal. They were visionaries, capable of seeing through deception, much like the tree's bright red berries that stood out against the snow. A rowan wand, it was said, would never betray its master and would excel at charms of protection and clarity. Then came the ash, the tree of the second month, from the 18th of February to the 17th of March. Ash was the world tree in Norse and Celtic lore, Yggdrasil's cousin, a pillar connecting the heavens, earth, and underworld. Its wood was strong, flexible, and imbued with the energy of the cosmos. A wand of ash was a wand of balance and connection. Wizards born under ash were believed to be natural bridges, diplomats, and healers. They possessed an innate understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, making them skilled in transfiguration and enchantments that wove different forms of magic together. Yet, ash had a dual nature. Its roots could reach into the dark waters of the underworld, granting its users an unusual affinity for boundary magic, the spells that guard thresholds and liminal spaces. An ash wand would never be content with mediocrity. It demanded growth and purpose. The oak, the third tree, ruled from the 18th of March to the 14th of April. Oak was the king of the forest in Celtic tradition, the embodiment of strength, endurance, and sovereignty. The Druids conducted their most sacred rituals in oak groves, and mistletoe cut from an oak was considered the most potent of magical plants. A wand made from oak was a wand of power. Wizards born under oak were natural leaders, stubborn yet honourable, with an unshakable sense of justice. They were the pillars of their communities, slow to anger but formidable when roused. Oak wands were notoriously difficult to master, but once they accepted a wizard, they would serve with unwavering loyalty. Such wands were particularly strong in protective magic, as well as in spells that required raw, sustained force. Yet there was a caution. Oak could become inflexible in the wrong hands, leading to a rigidity that shut out new possibilities. Finally, holly. From the 15th of April to the 12th of May, holly was the tree of winter and the solstice, a symbol of protection and rebirth. Its sharp leaves and bright red berries were seen as warding off negativity and bringing luck. A wand of holly was choosy in the extreme. It would only bond with a wizard who possessed great inner strength and a capacity for both light and shadow. Holly wizards were known for their duality. They could be fierce in battle but gentle in peace, passionate yet controlled. They were adventurers at heart, always seeking new challenges. Hollywood was also associated with the element of fire, making it ideal for offensive magic and spells of transformation. The wand of Harry Potter, as we know, was holly with a phoenix feather core, a combination that perfectly reflected his destiny as one who would confront darkness and emerge reborn. The Celtic tree calendar provided a framework for personality-based wand matching, but it was never a rigid system. The Druids understood that a wizard's birth tree was only the beginning. The wood chosen for a wand had to be harvested at the right time, under the right phase of the moon, and with the right intention. The calendar gave direction, but the wandmaker's intuition and skill were what sealed the bond. For centuries, this personalised approach flourished across the British Isles and beyond. Passed down through generations of hedge witches and tribal wandmakers, it was a tradition that honoured the uniqueness of each individual, treating wand selection as a sacred rite rather than a commercial transaction. But as the centuries rolled on and the wizarding world grew more interconnected, this ancient system began to fade. The standardization of wand cores and woods, pioneered by masters like Garrick Ollivander, prioritized consistency over individuality. Yet even Ollivander, the great modernizer, could not entirely escape the pull of the Celtic calendar. His modern interpretation of these ancient associations is one of the most subtle and fascinating layers of his craft. Ollivander did not openly advertise the Druidic system, but he certainly respected it. When he spoke of a wand's wood matching its owner's temperament, he was drawing on that same deep well of arboreal wisdom. He knew that a witch born in the month of oak would likely find an affinity with that wood, just as a wizard born under Rowan might feel an instant comfort with a Rowan wand. However, he also understood that personality could transcend the calendar, and that the true test was the wand's own choice. Ollivander's approach was a synthesis of old and new. He continued the Druidic tradition of using vine, considering any woody stem as a tree, while also embracing the three supreme cores that had become the gold standard of modern wand-making. His shop in Diagon Alley was a living archive of these layered histories. Rowan wands with dragon heartstring for the protective visionary, ash wands with unicorn hair for the balanced healer, oak wands with phoenix feather for the powerful leader, holly wands paired with the core that best suited the dual nature of its intended. The Celtic calendar was never advertised, but it whispered in every wand he sold. So when Isolt Sayre crossed the Atlantic, she carried not only a wand, but also the echo of this system. In the wilds of North America, she adapted it to the trees of the new land: black walnut, hickory, silver lime. But the underlying principle remained the same. The wood of a wand should speak to the soul of the wizard. The horned serpent core she pioneered was a North American innovation. But the framework for choosing that cause vessel still harked back to the Druidic calendar. It was a beautiful continuity, a thread stretching from the ancient groves of Europe to the forests of the New World. And yet, as the wizarding world entered a new era of regulation and fear, that personal sacred connection between wand and wizard would come under threat. In the years following the establishment of Ilvermorny, the North American magical community became increasingly paranoid about the dangers of untrained magic. They would soon enact one of the most restrictive laws in wizarding history, a law that would sever children from their wands until they were of age, a law known as Rappaport's Law and legal restrictions. That law would change everything. Our young witches and wizards learned, how they bonded with their wands, and how the ancient wisdom of the Celtic calendar would be forced to adapt or be forgotten in the shadow of bureaucracy. But before we cross that threshold, let us linger here in the quiet wood of the Druids, where a wand is not just a tool, but a living part of who you are, chosen on a day when the trees themselves seem to lean in and whisper your name. The Celtic tree calendar offered a deeply intuitive, almost poetic system of matching a wizard to their wand, linking the soul to the wood of a specific tree based on the moment of birth. It is an ancient wisdom rooted firmly in the Druidic traditions of the British Isles. But across the Atlantic Ocean, the story of Wandlore took a much sharper, more restrictive turn. It was not shaped by the branches of sacred trees, but by the cold, hard letters of a law. This law was Rappaport's Law, and it fundamentally reshaped the relationship between the magical and non-magical worlds in America. It was the year 1790 when the decree was enacted, driven by a deep-seated paranoia that had festered in the New World since the days of the Salem witch trials. The magical community in America, haunted by the memory of persecution, chose complete isolation over integration. The decree was a wall. It forbade any form of union or friendship between magical people and nomas, as they called non-magical people. It created a legal gulf so wide that the two worlds effectively existed on separate planes. But for the youngest witches and wizards, this law introduced a burden that their European counterparts could scarcely imagine. At the heart of Rappaport's Law was a deep distrust not just of nomas, but of children themselves, or rather, the fear that a child might inadvertently expose the magical world. The law dictated that no magical child could possess a wand outside of the grounds of Ilvermorny until they had reached the age of 17. Think about the gravity of that restriction for a moment. A young witch or boy wizard born into a magical family would be forbidden from even holding their own wand during the summer months. They could see it perhaps, locked in a chest or entrusted to a parent, but they could not carry it. They were stripped of their most fundamental magical tool, their primary means of self-expression. For half the year, the wand was no longer a constant companion. It became a privilege tightly controlled by the state. This severe restriction forced an entire culture of concealment to blossom in ways it never did in Europe. The craft of wand holsters, for instance, became highly sophisticated in America. It was not just about practical storage, it was a legal necessity. A wizard of age needed their wand to be completely hidden beneath a jacket or a coat at all times. Out of this environment, the industry of wand-concealing accessories thrived. American wandmakers began to design their wands with concealment in mind, preferring subtler finishes that did not catch the light or the eye. Some even experimented with charms, woven into the very wood, that offered a degree of muggle-repelling magic. The law created an entire shadow economy of enchanted holsters, sneak-proof carrying cases, and camouflaging enchantments that were simply considered eccentric back in England. But the deepest scar left by Rappaport's Law was undoubtedly the practice of wand locking during the school holidays. When a student left Ilvermorny for the summer, their wand was confiscated and locked securely within the school's vaults. They were forced to leave behind their core identity, their connection to their magic, for months at a time. This created a profound psychological impact. The wand was not a tool of daily life, but a symbol of a different world. It fostered a sense of liberation and urgency. The moment a student returned to school, they were rushing to their dorms not just to see friends, but to reclaim a part of their very soul. In this environment, the wooden branch was a highly charged object, a symbol of adulthood and freedom, making its eventual permanent acquisition. At 17, a rite of passage far more significant than the simple shopping trip undertaken by an 11-year-old in Diagon Alley. This system of strict legal control over the wand did not soften with time. In fact, it evolved into an even more intrusive system of bureaucratic oversight. By the 1920s, the American wizarding government required every single magical citizen, and even visiting tourists, to carry an official wand permit, a document that could be checked at any moment. And the rules surrounding that permit, the paperwork, the corruption, and the rebellion it caused, is the subject of our next chapter, the era of wand permits. Rappaport's law had drawn a hard line across the American wizarding experience. For nearly 200 years, the message was clear. Your wand was a privilege, not a right, and certainly not a toy, kept under lock and key at Ilvermorny until you reached the age of 17. But by the time the 1920s arrived, the Magical Congress of the United States of America, the MAC-USA, had realized that controlling the age of ownership was no longer sufficient. The great experiment of Rappaport's law had kept children safe, but it had done little to soothe the deep institutional paranoia left behind by the Scourers. The nomade population was larger than ever, their cities sprawling and packed tightly against magical communities. One stray spell could shatter centuries of secrecy. The solution was not more walls, but more paper. This was the birth of the wand permit. Every witch, every wizard, and every magical visitor who set foot on American soil in the 1920s was required to hold a valid wand permit issued by the MAC-USA. This was no simple piece of parchment. It was a living contract between the wizard and the state, enchanted to link directly to the magical identity of the wand it described. The process began at the moment of purchase, when a witch walked into a wand shop, like the New York branch of Ollivanders. Their wand was not just fitted, it was registered. The wood, the core, the length, the flexibility, every known variable was documented and cross-referenced against a central ledger in the wand permit office. The simple act of buying a wand, that deeply personal moment celebrated in Wandlore, was now a bureaucratic procedure, transaction stamped by the government before it could ever be fully embraced by the wizard. How did the system actually work? How did the MAC-USA track a single spell in a city of millions? The answer lay in the concept of the wand signature, similar to how a non-magical person might be tracked by their fingerprints. Every wand possessed a unique magical resonance, a signature of magical energy that was imprinted upon the spells it cast. The permit itself was designed to capture this resonance. A wizard casting a spell outside of designated magical zones, inside the home of a no-mage, or simply creating a magical disturbance, would leave behind a trace. The wand permit office possessed specialized equipment, similar in principle to the Priori Incantatem spell, but vastly more complex, that could read the echoes of this magical signature and instantly identify the wand that cast it. In the 1920s, the American witch or wizard lived with the constant, silent understanding that their wand was always broadcasting. Every spell was logged, tracked, and attached to a name. The wand permit office itself was the beating heart of this system, a sprawling department deep within the Woolworth building that housed the MAC-USA. Its sole purpose was the preservation of the statute of secrecy through the meticulous management of magical identification. Aurors relied on it. The wand permit office was the first line of defense against magical exposure, because a wand without a permit was a red flag for a rogue agent, a foreign spy, or a member of the Obscurus forming underground. It was, from the perspective of the law, a necessary and noble burden. Every signature tracked was a potential catastrophe averted. Every registered wand was a citizen accounted for. The system was not designed to oppress, but to protect. And yet, for the individual wizard, the experience was one of constant surveillance. This created a profound and searing tension at the very heart of American Wandlore. The deepest truth of the craft was that the wand chooses the wizard. The relationship between them was deeply personal, mystical, and unbreakable. But the wand permit system imposed a third party into that sacred bond, the state. Personal freedom clashed directly with magical security. A witch who wished to practice experimental magic in privacy was made to feel like a criminal. A wizard who valued his independence found himself defined by a piece of government paperwork. The core of Wandlore, the principle of allegiance and deep personal connection, was suddenly subject to the cold, external logic of the ledger. It was a trade-off that every American wizard had to make, and it forever coloured the way wands were perceived in the New World. The mystic tool of the ancients had become an ID card. It was in this specific environment of legal rigidity, deep philosophical tension, that the next great evolution of Wandlore quietly began to take shape. The American system was a triumph of magical bureaucracy, but it was an intellectual dead end for the art of wandmaking itself. Across the Atlantic, in a dusty shop in London, a deeper understanding was brewing. The need for standardization, the impulse to order chaos, was not just a political necessity in America, it was an emerging philosophy in Europe. But it focused not on the wizards, but on the wands themselves. The stage was being set for a complete redefinition of the craft, a quiet revolution that would strip away centuries of eccentric tradition and replace it with a clinical, elegant and powerful system of pure magic. A single wandmaker was about to reshape the world. Up next, Chapter 18. Garrick Ollivander's Great Standardization. Back in the 1920s, while the Magical Congress of the United States of America was busy issuing wand permits and tracking every magical signature across North America, a very different revolution was quietly unfolding on the other side of the Atlantic. In a narrow, dusty shop tucked into Diagon Alley, a young wandmaker named Garrick Ollivander was beginning to rewrite the entire history of his craft. He was not content with the way things had always been done. He believed that wandmaking had become sloppy, sentimental, and far too reliant on the whims of individual wizards and their odd collections of magical ingredients. For centuries, a wizard might walk into a wand shop with a pouch full of kelpie hair they had pulled from a river creature themselves, or a lock of Kneazle whiskers from a beloved familiar, and the wandmaker would simply accept it, incorporate it into a core, and hope for the best. There was no standard, no quality control, no scientific basis for why one core worked and another failed. Garrick Ollivander set out to change all of that. He inherited the family business, a name that had been synonymous with fine wands since 382 before Christ. But he knew that tradition alone was not enough. The world of magic was becoming more complex, more interconnected. Wizards were travelling farther, duelists were demanding more precision, and the old methods of pairing a wand to its owner through guesswork and goodwill were no longer adequate. Ollivander began a rigorous, almost obsessive study of every magical substance that had ever been used as a wand core. He examined records stretching back to the Druids, who had worked with vine and sacred woods, and he consulted ancient texts from Greece, Rome, and the Far East. He tested hundreds of potential core materials, from the hair of fire salamanders to the feathers of auguries, and he catalogued their properties with the patience of a man who believed that wandlore was a science as much as an art. What he found disturbed him. Many of the cores that wizards had brought to his predecessors were simply inferior. They were unstable, unreliable, or too weak to channel the more complex spells that modern magic demanded. Kelpie hair, for instance, was prone to a certain dampness that interfered with fire-based charms, and it could make a wand sluggish in dry climates. Kneazle whiskers were sharp and agile, but lacked the capacity for sustained magical output. They would burn out after a few years of heavy use, leaving a wizard stranded with a dead stick. Ollivander was ruthless in his rejection of these materials. He understood that a wand was not just a tool, but a living partnership, and a poor core was a betrayal of that trust. He wanted every wand that left his shop to be capable of greatness, to respond with loyalty and power to its chosen master. That meant limiting the core options to only those substances that had proven themselves, over centuries, to be truly supreme. And so, he made a decision that would transform the wand-making industry forever. He would no longer accept customer-provided cores. The days of walking into Ollivanders with your own bag of unicorn mane or dragon scale were over. Instead, he would supply his own cores, gathered from the finest sources, prepared with the utmost care and tested against rigorous standards. He narrowed the entire field to just 3 materials: dragon heartstring, unicorn hair, and phoenix feather. Each one, he argued, represented the pinnacle of magical potential, and each had unique characteristics that could be matched to different temperaments and magical styles. Dragon heartstring produced the most powerful wands, but they were also the most prone to accidents and slow to learn from their owners. Unicorn hair was the most consistent, the most loyal, and the least likely to turn to the dark arts, but it could be stubborn and less flexible in its performance. Phoenix feather was the rarest and the most capricious, capable of the greatest range of magic, but also the hardest to tame, often choosing a wizard who was destined for a remarkable fate. Ollivander did not stop at choosing these 3 supreme cores. He applied a scientific rigor to every step of their preparation. He analysed the age of the dragon from which a heartstring was taken, noting that older dragons produced denser, more responsive fibres. He tested the direction of the spiral in a unicorn hair, discovering that a clockwise twist responded better to defensive magic, while a counterclockwise twist favoured charm work. He bred his own phoenixes in a secret flock, tracking each feather's origin down to the individual bird and the exact moment it was shed. He kept meticulous records of every wand he ever made, noting the length, the flexibility, the wood, and the core, and he compared them against the later careers of the wizards who owned them. If a wand performed poorly, he would ask to have it returned and study the failure. He became the greatest living authority on wandlore, not by guesswork, but by turning his craft into a discipline that respected both tradition and evidence. The change was not immediate. Some wizards grumbled that Ollivander was being arrogant, that he was dismissing the ancient traditions of their families. There were still wandmakers in other parts of the world who continued to use local materials, like the horned serpent horn in America or the thunderbird feathers that Isolt Sayre had pioneered. But in Europe, and especially in Britain, the Ollivander name became synonymous with quality. His 3 supreme cores became the gold standard. Other wandmakers began to adopt the same approach, not because they were forced to, but because they could see that Ollivander's wands were consistently superior. His customers went on to become ministers of magic, champions in dueling tournaments, and heroes of magical disasters. The wands themselves seemed to carry a kind of pedigree, a guarantee that they had been made with the same care and knowledge that had been refined over 2,000 years. It was this dedication, this refusal to compromise, that truly revolutionized the industry. By moving away from the chaotic, customer-driven market of the past, Ollivander brought order and predictability to wandlore. He made it possible for a young witch or wizard to walk into his shop, try a dozen wands, and find the one that felt right, knowing that every single one of those wands had been constructed with the finest materials and the deepest understanding of magical science. He turned the wand from a simple tool into a precision instrument, and in doing so, he elevated the entire practice of magic. Yet for all his rigour, Ollivander never forgot the first law of wandlore. The wand chooses the wizard. He could design the perfect combination of wood and core, but the final decision belonged to the wand itself. and sometimes the wand would surprise him. It would choose a wizard who seemed mismatched on paper, or it would refuse a wizard who seemed ideal. He accepted these mysteries with humility, knowing that even his vast knowledge could not explain everything. The magic of the wand, the soul of the wand, would always retain a measure of the ancient and the unknowable. And so, as the 20th century moved toward its second half, the world of wandmaking had been remade. The era of kelpie hair and Kneazle whiskers was over, replaced by a new standard that would last for generations. But there was one core among the three supreme that held a particular fascination, a particular fire. Dragon Heartstring, the most powerful and the most volatile, had a story of its own to tell. A story of how raw power, when channeled through the right wood and the right wizard, could achieve feats that no other core could match. And that story waits for another chapter, when we explore the roaring heart of the dragon itself. When Garrick Ollivander chose to limit his wand-making to 3 cores, he was admitting that the raw materials of magic could be distilled down to their purest archetypes. The first of these, the one he reserved for witches and wizards of exceptional nerve and ambition, was the Dragon Heartstring. Ollivander knew that by recommending a dragon core, he was not simply selling a wand. He was handing a wizard a weapon of immense, almost untamable power. And he trusted that they understood the price of holding fire in their hand. A wand cored with Dragon Heartstring is defined by its immediate and aggressive output. It produces the most spectacular, the most forceful magic of the 3 supreme cores. There is no hesitation in a Dragon Heartstring wand. When a wizard casts a spell, the core responds with an almost violent enthusiasm, propelling the magic forward with a ferocity that leaves other wands behind. This is why these wands learn new spells so quickly. The core does not hold back. It does not wait for the wizard to prove themselves. It throws itself into the spellwork, forging a path of raw power ahead of the wizard's intent. A simple stunning spell becomes a declaration of war. A shield charm becomes a wall of defiance. The wizard is pushed to keep up, to command the power they have been given. But this speed comes with a dangerous shadow. The Dragon Heartstring is temperamental. It is prone to accidents of a spectacular and often destructive nature, especially when placed in the hands of a witch or wizard who lacks focus. The magic that flows from these wands is a torrent, not a stream. It demands constant mental discipline. A moment of distraction, a flicker of doubt, and the power can turn inward or explode outward in ways that are difficult to control. It is a core that punishes weakness instantly. This is why Ollivander always hesitated before offering it. He knew he was placing a volatile force in the hands of the customer, and he trusted them to have the strength to hold it. The question of allegiance is what truly separates the Dragon Heartstring from its sister cores. A dragon core changes allegiance more easily than any other. This is not a flaw in the wand's construction. It is a reflection of the nature of the dragon itself. A dragon is a creature of dominance and territory. When a wizard is defeated in a duel, a Dragon Heartstring wand may perceive the victor as the stronger master. It does not hold a grudge. It simply acknowledges the new alpha. This quality makes these wands deeply attuned to the flow of magical combat. They do not cling to the past. They seek the wizard who is winning in the present. This is a terrifying thought for a wizard who grows complacent, but a deeply attractive one for a wizard who knows their own power and intends to keep it. This brings us to the bond between a flamboyant wizard and their dragon core. There is a specific personality type that is drawn to this core, or perhaps the core seeks them out. These are wizards who are expressive, theatrical, and unafraid to occupy the full space of their own potential. They are not hidden. Look at those who have mastered a Dragon Heartstring wand. Minerva McGonagall, whose strict demeanour concealed a core of iron will and dramatic power. Bellatrix Lestrange, whose magic was viscous, personal, and utterly ruthless. Dolores Umbridge, whose wand produced magic that was aggressively bureaucratic, a terrifying form of control. These wizards do not wish to whisper their spells. They wish to declare them. Their bond with the wand is a partnership of fire. It is demanding, explosive, and utterly consuming. The wand does not simply serve the wizard. It expects to be matched. It expects to be tested. It is a relationship built on respect for power, not on gentle affection. The wizard must project their ambition directly into the wand, and the wand responds by amplifying that ambition into a raw, undeniable force. But this consuming fire can leave little room for subtlety or safety. The same power that allows a dragon heartstring to break through the strongest magical defenses makes it a liability in the hands of the unprepared. The wand is spectacular in its victories and spectacular in its failures. It is the core of the duelist, the innovator, the wizard who bends the rules of magic to their will. It is the heart of a dragon, bound into a single piece of wood, waiting to be unleashed. If the dragon heartstring represents the blazing, untamable heart of magical creation, the need to act, to conquer, to burn bright, then there must be an opposing force, a counterbalance that offers safety in return for constancy. Garrick Ollivander understood that the world needed both fire of the dragon and the quiet, unshakable loyalty of the unicorn. For every wizard who seeks to command magic with an iron fist, there is another who seeks to walk with it in perfect harmony. That is the path of the unicorn hare, a consistency that offers its own profound form of magic. And that is the subject of our next chapter. And so we move from the raw, fiery power of dragon heartstring to something altogether different, something quieter, more patient, and yet in its own way just as formidable. In the world of Wandlore, few materials inspire as much trust as unicorn hair. Where dragon heartstring is eager and unpredictable, unicorn hair is steady and unwavering. Where phoenix feather is capricious and rare, unicorn hair is faithful and true. To understand why, we must look not at the spellwork, but at the creature itself. Unicorns are among the most pure and gentle magical beings. They are creatures of the forest, drawn to places untouched by darkness, and they possess an innate aversion to harm. Their hair, when used as a wand core, carries that same essence. It is not about raw power, not in the way a dragon heartstring crackles with latent energy. It is about consistency. A unicorn hair wand produces magic that is reliable, predictable, and stable. It does not fluctuate in temperament. It does not rebel against its owner for no reason. It performs the same spell with the same precision, day after day, year after year. For the witch or wizard who values control and dependability, there is no finer choice. But this consistency comes with a profound cost, or rather, a profound condition. Unicorn hair wands form an exceptionally deep bond with their first master. Once a unicorn hair core chooses a wizard, it gives its allegiance with an almost absolute loyalty. It is not easily swayed, not easily won. And this loyalty is not merely a matter of preference. It is a magical contract. Should the wand be stolen, or should the original owner die, the wand will not simply transfer allegiance to the next hand that wields it. Instead, it falls into a state of what wandmakers call melancholy. The wand becomes listless, unresponsive. Its magic becomes sluggish, reluctant, as though it is mourning the loss of its true partner. Performing even the simplest charm can feel like pushing a stone uphill. The wand does not reject the new wielder outright. It simply loses its will to perform. This melancholy is not permanent. With time and care, a unicorn hair wand can learn to accept a new master, but it is a slow and delicate process. It requires patience, respect, and a genuine bond. The wand must be won, not through force, but through trust. And even then, it will never forget its first owner. It carries the memory of that first bond like a scar, faint, but always present. This is why unicorn hair wands are so rarely passed down through inheritance. Handing a unicorn hair wand to a child is not a simple gift. It is an invitation to a long, quiet courtship, one that may never fully succeed. There is another remarkable quality to unicorn hair cores that sets them apart from almost all other materials. They are the least likely to turn to the dark arts. This is not a rule of politics or morality. It is a law of magic. Unicorn hair is innately resistant to spells and intentions that seek to cause harm for harm's sake. A wizard who tries to force a unicorn hair wand to perform dark magic will find the wand uncooperative, sometimes even defiant. It may misfire or refuse to cast entirely. This is not because the wand is sentient in the way we understand sentience, but because the core itself carries the essence of the unicorn's purity. The creature from which it came is wholly opposed to darkness, and that opposition is woven into every fibre. Of course, a unicorn hair wand is not incapable of performing dark magic. It can be used to defend, or to deliver justice, or even to strike down an enemy in a just cause. But for the sheer pleasure of cruelty, for the cold ambition of the dark arts, these wands are almost impossible to corrupt. This is why dark wizards rarely seek out unicorn hair wands. They prefer dragon heartstring, which lends itself to ambition, or phoenix feather, which has no moral compass of its own. A unicorn hair wand is a wand for the light, for those who seek harmony, for those who wish to heal and protect rather than destroy. And yet, for all its gentleness, there is a quiet strength in unicorn hair. The most consistent magic is not always the most spectacular, but it is the magic you can rely on when all else fails. It is the magic that never betrays you, and in a world of shifting allegiances and hidden dangers, that kind of fidelity is worth more than any burst of raw power. As we turn from the steadfast loyalty of the unicorn, we must consider a core that is almost its opposite in temperament. A substance that is as beautiful as it is unpredictable, as rare as it is legendary. A core that, like the creature it comes from, can rise from ashes and choose its own path, often with a will that defies any wandmaker's expectations. The phoenix feather awaits. After exploring the steadfast loyalty of unicorn hair, we now turn to a core that seems to operate by an entirely different set of rules. One that is as rare as the creature it comes from, and far more unpredictable. The phoenix feather core is the rarest of the three supreme cores, not simply because phoenixes are mythical beings that are nearly impossible from fact, but because a phoenix will only ever give up a single feather at a time, and only to a wizard who has earned its trust. Garrick Ollivander himself spent decades in pursuit of such feathers, and even then he used only a handful in his entire career. The result is a wand that is as singular as the creature that donated its essence. These wands are notoriously difficult to tame. They do not simply choose a wizard based on skill or lineage. They seem to look for something deeper, something written in the wizard's destiny. A phoenix feather wand often selects a witch or wizard who is destined for greatness, or for a path that will be marked by both triumph and tragedy. But the selection is only the beginning. Mastering such a wand requires a level of mutual respect that borders on partnership. The wand will not obey a simple command if it senses hesitation or a lack of conviction. It is capricious by nature, and its loyalty is earned slowly through patience and a certain kind of boldness. What truly sets the phoenix feather core apart is its tendency to act on its own accord. These wands are not passive tools. They have a will of their own, and they are not afraid to express it. There are documented cases of a phoenix wand casting a spell without the wizard's conscious command, as if the wand itself sensed a threat or an opportunity. In the hands of a confident wielder, this independence can be an asset. The wand may perform defensive magic before the wizard even thinks of it, but in the hands of someone uncertain, the wand can become recalcitrant, refusing to perform even the simplest charm. It is a core that demands to be understood on its own terms. Yet for all its capriciousness, the phoenix feather core is capable of the greatest range of magic. Ollivander himself described it this way. A phoenix feather wand can produce magic that is both subtle and explosive, delicate and devastating. It is equally adept at transfiguration and charms, at defensive spells and offensive strikes. The wand seems to draw on the phoenix's own nature, the power of rebirth and renewal, so it can channel an extraordinary breadth of magical energy. But that power comes at a cost. It is not a wand for the faint of heart. It will push its owner to grow, to adapt, and to reach for something beyond the ordinary. In the long history of Wandlore, The Phoenix Feather Core remains the most mysterious of the three supreme cores. It is a reminder that a wand is not just a tool, but a living extension of a wizard's soul, and sometimes a soul that has a mind of its own. There is a law that governs the connection between wands that share the same source, a law so rare and so powerful that few wizards ever witness it. The law of brother wands. It is a phenomenon that can turn a duel into a living memory, and it reveals a hidden bond that ties two wands together across time and space. But that is a story for another quiet moment, one that will bring us face to face with the most unusual connection in all of magical history. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. You might think that after exploring the capricious nature of Phoenix Feather Core, we have touched upon the most unpredictable force in Wandlore, but there exists a phenomenon even rarer, even stranger, and one that reveals a hidden law of magic that most wizards never encounter in a lifetime. Involves not the character of a single wand, but the bond between two wands that share a truly extraordinary origin. This is the law of brother wands. When Garrick Ollivander began standardizing the three supreme cores, he understood something profound about the nature of magical materials. A dragon heartstring, a unicorn hair, a phoenix feather. These are not generic substances. Each one comes from a specific living creature. And when a wandmaker extracts a single hair from a particular phoenix, or a single fibre from a particular dragon's heart, that material is unique. But what happens when two wands are created from the same individual creature? When two cores are taken from the same phoenix, the same unicorn, the same dragon, then you have not just two wands, you have twins. The term brother wands is not a sentimental metaphor. It is a precise classification in Wandlore, referring to any pair of wands whose cores originate from the same magical creature. The connection between them is not merely symbolic. It is biological, magical, and deeply rooted in the essence of the creature that gave its life or its substance to both. Think of it as a kind of sympathetic bond, a residual thread of identity that persists even after the core material has been separated and encased in wood. The creature's magic, once unified, remembers itself. Now you might assume that two brother wands would work in perfect harmony, and in many ways they do. When used independently, they perform as any other wand of their type. But the trouble begins when they are forced into opposition. The law of brother wands states that they cannot be made to duel each other in a standard confrontation. It is not a matter of choice or will on the part of the wizard. It is a fundamental refusal encoded in the core itself. When two brother wands meet in conflict, something far deeper than a simple spell clash occurs. Why this refusal? The answer lies in the nature of magic itself. Every wand channels the wizard's intent through its core, but the core carries its own signature, its own magical resonance. When two cores from the same creature come within range of each other and attempt to oppose one another, they recognize their shared origin. They resist attacking a part of themselves. It is as if the magic refuses to harm its own reflection. The result is not a normal duel. Instead, a rare and spectacular phenomenon takes place. A golden thread of light connects the two wand tips. The connection forces a cascade of effects that most wizards have never seen and cannot explain. This phenomenon is known as the reverse spell effect, or Priori Incantatem. But before we delve into that, we must appreciate how vanishingly rare such an event is. For two brother wands to meet in combat, several improbable conditions must align. First, the same magical creature must have provided cores for two separate wands. Second, those two wands must end up in the hands of wizards, who later find themselves in direct opposition. Third, neither wizard must yield or break the connection before the effect takes hold. The odds are astronomical. In the entire recorded history of Wandlore, only a handful of such encounters are known. Most wandmakers never witness it. Most wizards never learn of it. The biological and magical connection between two brother wands is not something that can be artificially created. It is not a bond that can be faked with similar chord types from different creatures. It requires true twins, drawn from the same individual. And because magical creatures like phoenixes are incredibly rare, and because dragon heartstrings are harvested from beasts that are difficult to breed in captivity, and because unicorn hair is most often taken from creatures that are already old or dying, the chance of two such cores being prepared from the same animal is extraordinarily slim. In the case of phoenix feathers, it is said that only one phoenix has ever contributed its feathers to multiple wands in Ollivander's long history. That phoenix was Fawkes, the loyal companion of Albus Dumbledore, and his two feathers ended up in two wands that would eventually face each other in a duel that decided the fate of the wizarding world. So when we speak of brother wands, we are speaking of a connection that transcends mere craft. It is a thread of life itself, woven into the very instruments of magic. And when that thread is pulled taut in conflict, the law of brother wands enforces a consequence that cannot be ignored. The two wands will not simply shoot spells at each other, they will lock together, and the magic of the creature that once shared a single body will force a reckoning. That reckoning is called Priori Incantatem, the reverse spell effect. It is a subject so deep, so strange, and so revealing that it deserves a chapter of its own. So let us step carefully into what happens when brother wands meet, and why their connection can expose the deepest secrets of magic. In the previous chapter, we explored the law of brother wands, the quiet understanding that two wands born from the same magical creature cannot be forced to fight each other. This is the deep, unwritten contract of Wandlore. But what happens when that fundamental law is broken? What happens when circumstances conjure the perfect storm required to violate this sacred trust between twin cores? The answer is one of the rarest and most terrifying phenomena in all of wand magic, a secret so closely guarded by the wand itself that most practitioners of the art will never witness it in 1,000 lifetimes. It is called the Priori Incantatem, the reverse spell effect. The mechanics of this connection are breathtakingly precise. The moment two brother wands are forced into a duel against their will, they refuse to fight in the conventional way. They rebel against the wizard commanding them. Instead of a stream of green light hammering against a shield of red, a single, brilliant golden thread erupts from the deep center of both wands, forging a bridge between the two duelists. This thread is not raw power being discharged. It is a negotiation, a forced dialogue. One wand begins to dominate this golden link. A single bead of intense light travels slowly along the thread, moving from the victor's wand toward the loser. When that bead reaches the tip of the losing wand, the connection tightens, and the true strangeness of Priori Incantatem reveals itself. This is the exact moment of the Song of the Phoenix. If the core of the brother wand is from that most magical of birds, the phoenix, the very wood, begins to vibrate with an impossible warmth. A distinct ethereal song rises from the wand, as if the spirit of the bird itself has manifested inside the magical wood. The psychological effects of this link are devastating. The two wizards are no longer just casting spells against each other. They are bound in a mind-to-mind connection so deep that every emotion, every intention, and every secret thought bleeds across the golden thread. The feeling is one of absolute vulnerability. Harry Potter described it as being pulled into a world of pure white light, where the only anchor was the song of the phoenix. It imposes a strange sense of calm and clarity upon the wizard who hears it, even as their life hangs in the balance. Then comes the most unnerving aspect of the reverse spell effect. The losing wand is no longer capable of fighting. It has been fully overpowered by the will of its brother. Instead of defending its master, it is forced to regurgitate echoes of its past deeds. These are not merely memories projected into the air. They are solid, shimmering ghosts of the spells it has cast. The wand vomits its history into the space between the two duelists. First, the most recent spells appear, but then it digs deeper. it begins to cough up the full shape of the people it has destroyed. The shades of the murdered rise from the tip of the wand, translucent and waiting. It is a complete confession. The losing wand betrays every secret of its master, laying the entire history of its allegiance backwards for its opponent to see. The conditions required to trigger this ultimate manifestation of Wandlore are incredibly strict. It requires more than simply two brother wands. It requires two cores from the very same individual creature. For example, the tail feathers from a specific phoenix, one given to a hero and one stolen for a villain. It requires a duel where the wands are forced into a direct, locked connection. The wands must be pressed together, tip to tip, in a struggle of sheer will. And finally, the duel itself must push the boundaries of magic, usually in a life or death confrontation, where the killing curse meets a defensive charm of equal power. This confluence of circumstances is so rare that most wizards in history have never even heard of it. It is the deep, hidden consequence of sharing a magical signature across two instruments of power. This revelation changes the very nature of how we understand the bond between wizard and wand. If a wand can be forced to confess its deepest secrets against its will, can it also be forced to change its loyalty? The moment the golden thread fades and the ghosts disappear, the relationship between the wizard and their wand is never quite the same. The wand that lost the duel has been exposed. The one that won has proven its dominance. This sets the stage for a profound question. What happens next to the allegiance of conquering wands? The answer requires a deep look into the very fabric of how a wand chooses its owner, a concept explored in the next chapter, which is entirely dedicated to understanding the mechanics of winning allegiance. The golden thread of Priori Incantatem reveals a truth that most wizards spend a lifetime never glimpsing. A wand is not merely a channel for power, but a living record of its own history. It holds memory, it holds allegiance, and once that connection is forged, severing it's not as simple as prying the wood from a wizard's fingers. In fact, the mechanics of winning a wand's loyalty are some of the most misunderstood concepts in all of Wandlore. The greatest misconception held by the magical world at large is that possession of a wand is the same as mastery of it. You can take a wand from a sleeping witch. You can pick one up off the ground. You can even purchase a second-hand wand from a shop. But unless you have truly won that wand, you are little more than a temporary custodian. The wand may still perform magic for you, especially if it has no current master, but it will never give you its full measure. It will never fight for you. You can steal a wand, but you can only it. And winning a wand requires a specific kind of conquest. It requires the defeated owner to genuinely submit, to acknowledge, through the language of magic, that they have been bested. The moment Draco Malfoy disarmed Albus Dumbledore atop the Astronomy Tower, he did not physically take the Elder Wand. He did not need to. Magic recognized the victory. The wand transferred its allegiance instantly. Because in the world of wands, intention matters more than physical touch. This is why the wand of a slain master is often won so completely. Death is the ultimate surrender, but a wand can also be won through a simple disarming charm, provided the opponent's spirit is broken. But why are some wands so much more eager to switch their loyalty than others? Why does a unicorn hair wand cling to its first master with a fierce devotion that lasts a lifetime, while a phoenix feather wand seems to constantly test the boundaries of its owner's authority? The answer lies deep within the wood and the core. A wand made of blackthorn, for instance, is known to be a wand of warfare. It is a weapon. It cares little for sentiment and respects only the strong. It will transfer its allegiance ruthlessly, seeking out the victor with the cold logic that matches its purpose. Conversely, a wand of vine is stubborn. It has a strong sense of self. It forms deep bonds with its owner, but is often extremely difficult to win from that owner, because it views conquest as an insult. The core is just as crucial. Dragon heartstring wands, for all their power, are often surprisingly fickle. They are drawn to ambition. They want to be part of great achievements. if their current master shows weakness. A dragon heartstring wand begins to look for the next great wizard to tether itself to. Unicorn hair, on the other hand, is the most consistent and loyal of the supreme cause. A unicorn wand is incredibly difficult to turn against its owner. It practically has to be forced, through a brutal conquest, to consider a new master. And then, there is the Phoenix Feather. The Phoenix Feather wand is an enigma. It is independent. It will serve any master, but only to the extent that they impress it. It is the most proactive of wands. It chooses its master, often before the wizard chooses it. Winning a Phoenix wand is a constant process. It does not switch lightly, but once it does, the new wizard must constantly prove themselves worthy. This variation in loyalty reaches its most terrifying extreme in the Elder Wand. The Elder Wand is unique. It is not simply fickle, it is predatory. It actively craves conflict. Every other wand in the world is content to serve a wizard for a lifetime. The Elder Wand, by its very nature, seeks to be conquered. It was created by death, according to legend, to be the ultimate prize. It does not love its master. It respects them. But that respect is conditional upon their strength. The moment a wizard fails to defend their ownership of the Elder Wand, the wand abandons them without a shred of hesitation or sentiment. It is the perfect weapon for a tyrant, but it is a terrible master. This sensitivity to conquering is why the Elder Wand is so notoriously difficult to hold. You cannot just lock it in a vault. You cannot simply bequeath it in a will. You must actively dominate in the magical world to keep it loyal. Dumbledore understood this. He knew that by willingly letting Severus Snape kill him, he was attempting to break the wand's power. He thought he could end its bloody history by arranging his own defeat in a way that trapped the wand. He did not account for the fact that Malfoy had disarmed him first, making Malfoy the true master. Snape's murder of Dumbledore was effectively meaningless in the eyes of the Elder Wand, because Dumbledore was not conquered by Snape. He was a willing sacrifice. The Elder Wand does not honor sacrifice. It honors victory. This leads directly to one of the most profound questions in Wandlore. Can a wand serve two masters? The conventional answer is no. A wand has one allegiance at a time, but the nuances are far more complex. A wand can find itself with confused loyalties. This happens most often during a duel, where the outcome is disputed, or when a wizard is carrying a wand that was not fairly won. In the case of the Elder Wand, it recognized two simultaneous claims. Harry's claim, because he won the wand from its previous master by disarming Draco Malfoy, and Voldemort's claim, based on his use of the wand and his belief that he was its master because he had killed Snape. The wand had to decide. The nuances of shared loyalty almost never come into play because most wands do not have the sheer power to contemplate serving two different wills. But the Elder Wand is different. When two wizards believe they are its master, the wand will serve the one who truly conquered its last master. It perceived Harry as the victor and Voldemort as a pretender. Nevertheless, the wand served Voldemort. It could not refuse to perform magic for him entirely because he held it, but it would not give him its ultimate allegiance. It fought for him begrudgingly, and at the critical moment, when the killing curse was launched, the wand recognized its true master. It refused to harm Harry. This is a unique case in magical history. It is the only documented instance of a wand being so thoroughly conflicted that it turned against the wizard casting the spell. The Elder Wand, having a shred of loyalty to Harry, effectively saved him. These mechanics of allegiance, of winning and losing, of fickleness and conquest, they paint a picture of a relationship that is deeply psychological. The wand is a mirror of the wizard's soul. But what happens when that mirror shatters? When a wand is subjected to a trauma so absolute that no amount of loyalty or conquest can ever restore it? There comes a point in the life of every object where the damage is irreparable. The wood can be snapped, the core can be exposed, the magic within can simply bleed out into the air and be lost forever. This is the final tragic frontier of Wandlore, the concept of a wand's death, and it is a fate that only one wand in history has ever been known to fully undo. We will explore that boundary in the next chapter, the silence after the break, the point of no return, irreparable damage and wand death. A wand is, at its heart, a vessel for potential. It is a finely tuned instrument designed to channel a wizard's will and amplify it into reality. But what happens when the vessel is broken, when the channel is shattered? We have spoken at length about the complex courtship between wizard and wand, the transfer of allegiance, the fickle loyalties of different cores. But all of this assumes the wand is still whole, still alive. There is a darker, more final chapter in the relationship between a caster and their tool, and it begins with the sound of snapping wood. When a wand is broken, it is not simply a tool that has been damaged. It is a bond that has been violently severed. The physical act can be brutally mundane: a heavy door slamming shut, a boot coming down in a scuffle, a beam falling during a skirmish. The wood splinters. The core, that delicate thread of magical essence, is stretched beyond its limit and tears. The moment the core is severed, or the wood is snapped cleanly, in two, the magic does not just stop working, it flees, it unravels. The wand becomes inert almost instantly, because the structure that held the enchantment is gone. The intricate matrix woven by the Wandmaker, the careful marriage of wood and core, is a complex circuit. Once that circuit is physically broken, the magic has no path. It simply bleeds out into the air and dissipates, leaving behind an empty shell of wood and a dead strand of magical fibre. The light is gone. This leads to a profound question that troubles every wizard who has ever faced a broken wand. Why can't a simple charm fix it? It is a deeply logical instinct. Every young witch or wizard learns the Reparo charm early in their education. It is taught as a basic utility spell, a way to mend a broken quill or a shattered glass with a flick of the wrist. The instinct is to point this same spell at a broken wand, to knit the wood back together and expect the magic to flow once more, and the charm will work partially. The wood might physically seal, the grain of the timber might meet again, but the wand will be dead. The Reparo charm is an incantation of material assembly. It forces atoms back into their previous alignment. For an object that is purely physical, like a cup or a statue, this is sufficient. A wand, however, is not merely a physical object. It is a magical instrument that has been imbued with a specific identity. The process of wand making infuses the wood and the core with a unique magical signature. It establishes a flow, a current of potential that is finely tuned and incredibly delicate. When a wand breaks, that flow is destroyed. The Reparo charm can rebuild the riverbed, but it cannot replace the water. It cannot restore the specific spiritual and magical resonance that existed. The wand is hollow. If a wizard stubbornly tries to use a wand that has been mended by Reparo, or even a wand that is simply cracked but still physically held together, the results are deeply dangerous. The magic in a damaged wand has nowhere to go. It cannot follow its intended path. This creates a catastrophic loss of magical flow. The energy backs up. It sputters. The wand might emit a weak jet of sparks, or it might not respond at all. But the greatest danger is the backfire. The magic, unable to leave the wand safely, turns inward. It can violently reverse itself, sending a shock of uncontrolled energy back through the caster's arm. Experienced duelists know that a damaged wand is a liability, not just because it is unreliable, but because it can actively harm the wizard holding it. The magic becomes spiteful, it becomes trapped, and it fights to escape. The wand does not just fail to work properly, it becomes a liability, a ticking hazard that can turn a simple levitation charm into an explosive curse. This represents the tragic end of a wizard's relationship with their original wand. There is a deep mourning that comes with this loss. The first wand is not just a tool, it is a reflection of the wizard's own soul, a companion that has witnessed the entirety of their magical growth. To break it is to sever a living connection. The wizard knows, on a fundamental level, that this specific bond can never be reclaimed. The wood will never sing for them again. The core will never resonate to their particular frequency. they are left with a corpse, a collection of splinters and dust that holds the ghost of a partnership. Most wizards keep their broken wands, unable to discard the symbol of what was lost. They bury them in gardens, store them in boxes. They are reminders of a finality that standard magic simply cannot overcome. This grim rule, this permanent state of magical death for a wand, is generally considered an absolute law of Wandlore. But there is one artifact in the history of magic that stands as a direct contradiction to this finality. A single object capable of performing the impossible. That fabled solution, that single exception to the rule of irreparable damage, is the subject of our next chapter. Up next is chapter 26, The Exception, Repairing with the Elder Wand. In the last chapter, we explored the finality of a broken wand, the snapped wood, the severed core, a death that no ordinary spell could reverse, not even the most skilled wandmaker's handiwork. And yet, buried within the deepest lore of Wandlore, there exists a single exception, one wand that defies the universal rule of irreparable damage, a wand so ancient, so steeped in legend, that its very name inspires both awe and fear, the Elder Wand, the Deathstick, the Wand of Destiny. For centuries, wandmakers believed that once a wand's integrity was compromised, whether through a shattered shaft or a fractured core, it was lost forever. The magic that binds wooden core is delicate, woven in a way that standard reparative charms cannot touch. Hermione Granger, brilliant as she was, could not fix Harry Potter's broken wand after the skirmish in the Malfoy Manor. The wand did not respond. It was, for all intents and purposes, dead. But the Elder Wand holds a secret that separates it from every other instrument of magic ever created. It does not just channel power. It possesses the unique ability to mend other magical instruments, to restore what was thought to be gone forever. Think about the sheer audacity of that property. The Elder Wand was crafted, according to legend, by Death himself from a branch of an elder tree with a core of thestral hair. That core, tied to the liminal space between life and death, grants the wand an understanding of endings and beginnings. It sees the boundary that ordinary wands cannot cross. When Harry Potter took possession of the Elder Wand, after he had defeated Draco Malfoy and later disarmed him, the wand recognized a master it could serve, and in that moment, Harry did something no other wizard had thought to attempt with the Deathstick. He used it to repair his Phoenix Feather Wand, the very wand that had been broken, its core exposed, its magic silent. He did not simply cast a spell. He held the Elder Wand in one hand and the remains of his old wand in the other, and with a simple, almost whispered command, the wood wove itself back together. The Phoenix Feather reknit itself at the centre. The wand became whole again, as if it had never been damaged. It was a miracle that defied everything wandmakers had written for centuries. No other wand had ever demonstrated such a power. Not the wands of Ollivander, not the ancient wands of the Druids, not even the wands crafted by Isolt Sayre in the New World. Only the Elder Wand could reach across that threshold of finality and pull something back. What are the theoretical limits of this restorative power? Could the Elder Wand mend a wand that had been completely pulverized into dust? Could it restore a core that had been completely dissolved in fiend fire? The answer likely lies in the nature of what broken truly means. The Elder Wand seems to require that some remnant of the original magical identity remains. The wood must still carry the memory of its shape. The core must retain a trace of its former essence. Harry's wand was snapped but not obliterated. The pieces still existed. The wand's allegiance, in a sense, was still tied to him. So the Elder Wand, as the master of death and endings, could reverse the ending that had befallen that wand. But if a wand had been ground to ash, or its core burned away completely, even the Elder Wand might find nothing to anchor its repair. This is why the secret of this ability remained hidden from most wandmakers for centuries. Few ever held the Elder Wand long enough to test its properties. Those who did, like Gellert Grindelwald and Albus Dumbledore, were either too consumed by its raw power or too burdened by its dark reputation to consider using it for such a humble act. Dumbledore, for all his wisdom, never used the wand to repair his own sister's broken wand, because that wand was lost, and perhaps because he feared the temptation of wielding the Eld Wand for personal restoration. The Wandmakers of the world, from the Ollivanders to the Wandmakers of the East, had no way to study the Deathstick. It passed from hand to hand through violence, never lingering in a workshop long enough for analysis. The wand's reputation as a weapon overshadowed any potential for creation, so the knowledge that the Elder Wand could restore the broken remained a legend whispered among those who had read the tale of the three brothers. A story most dismissed as a children's fable. It was only when Harry Potter, the final master of the Elder Wand, chose to use it not to conquer but to mend, that the truth was revealed. He did not broadcast this discovery. He placed the wand back in Dumbledore's tomb, intending its power to die with him. But the fact remains. The Elder Wand is more than a weapon. It is a tool of repair that breaks the ultimate rule of Wandlore. And in that single act, it changed everything we thought we knew about the boundaries of magical craftsmanship. This raises a fascinating question about how different cultures approach the same fundamental truths of Wandlore. From the Druids of ancient Europe to the Wandmakers of North America, every magical society developed its own methods, its own materials, its own secrets, and the Elder Wand's unique power is just one example of how deeply local traditions shape the understanding of what a wand can and cannot do. The variations in wand-making across the globe are as rich and varied as the forests from which the wood is harvested, and they hold surprises that even the most learned wand-makers have yet to fully uncover. The fact that Harry Potter could simply reach for the Elder Wand and restore his holly and phoenix feather wand from a state of complete destruction seems on the surface to be a simple solution to a dire problem, but that single act of repair tells us something profound about our own assumptions. The Elder Wand, a legendary object crafted in a distant era amidst the folklore of the Deathly Hallows, operates on a set of rules entirely its own. It breaks the very laws that govern every other wand in existence. And this brings us to a striking realization. The laws that govern wand making, the rules we take for granted, are not universal. The philosophy of the wand that we have explored so deeply, the doctrines of the Ollivander family, the reverence for the three supreme cores, that is the European perspective. It is a tradition of standardization, of meticulous control. The wand chooses the wizard. The wood chooses the core. It is a precise science, a genealogy of magic traced across 2,000 years of recorded history. But travel south to the African continent, to the Ouagadougou School of Magic, nestled in the mountains of the moon, and you will find a tradition that challenges that very foundation entirely. Here, wandless magic is not a rare skill for advanced adepts or a mark of exceptional talent. It is the standard form of magical education. Students learn to channel their magic through their hands, their voices, their connection to the stars, and the ancestral earth. They do not need a piece of wood to focus their intent. The wand is often seen as a crutch, or worse, as a limiting factor, a foreign object that imposes a specific European structure onto a spirit that is perfectly capable of shaping its own destiny. This is a fundamental divide in the understanding of what magic actually is. In Europe, a wizard without a wand is vulnerable, almost helpless. In much of Africa, a wizard without a wand is simply a wizard. Move further east to the ancient wandmakers of Japan. Here the wand is often shorter, held in a different balance. The wood is frequently harvested from trees that have stood for centuries in sacred groves, imbued with the kami, the spirits of the land. The process is one of deep spiritual alignment and ritual purification. The wandmaker does not simply force the wood into submission. They ask permission from the spirit of the tree. The core materials are different. Asian traditions often prize the hair of a creature of immense magical power, a single whisker from a river spirit, or the feather of a sacred crane. The idea of three supreme cores is an alien concept to a maker who draws from a bestiary entirely foreign to the wandmakers of London. This is where the sheer geography of magic dictates the craft. The wood prized in one climate is useless, or even hostile in another. The English oak, with its sturdy and resilient nature, thrives in the damp hills of Britain. It is a wood for a witch or wizard of strong moral fibre and unwavering loyalty. But in the dry, searing heat of the North African deserts, the acacia tree provides a wood that is incredibly warded, a wood that is deeply protective of secrets, yet difficult for a conventional European maker to even calm. In the dense, humid rainforests of South America, a wandmaker turns to the iron-hard wood of the Wamara tree or the deeply magical Brazil wood, capable of channeling explosive, vibrant, passionate magic. The Druids of old, the ancient masters of Wandlore, had a simple rule: anything with a woody stem is a tree. This gave them the vine, a Mediterranean and European staple, but it reveals a universal truth. The wandmaker is a child of their environment, bound by the flora of their homeland. This scarcity of perfect materials creates a vast, shadowy, globalized economy of magic. The exotic cores of the world must travel thousands of miles to find the perfect wood. The heartstring of a Chinese fireball might be legally exported or carefully smuggled to a workshop in Salem or Diagon Alley. The hair of a vela from the forests of Eastern Europe is a highly sought-after, treacherous core material, traded for sums that could buy a small castle. The feather of a thunderbird, a core unique to the wands of Isolt Sayre and her Ilvermorny school, is a treasured secret of the American magical tradition. Rarely exported and fiercely protected, this trade is the lifeblood of the wand-making world. It connects a village in the Scottish Highlands to a dragon sanctuary in Romania, a wand shop in a bustling American city to a grove of magical trees in the Levant that no map can truly record. So the vast tapestry, the wandless mastery of Ouagadougou, the spiritual rituals of the East, the standardized sciences of Europe, the raw elemental power of the Americas, the global trade that binds them all together in a web of commerce and conflict. All of this variety, this chaos of wood and core and tradition, churns beneath the surface of every single magical act, and it forces us to ask the deepest question of all. If the magic is ultimately the same energy, why does the tool vary so wildly? Why the divide between a wand, a gesture, and a whispered hymn? The answer is that the tool is not the power. The mind and the heart are the engines. The wand is a mirror. It reflects the philosophy of the culture that created it, the climate that nurtured its wood, the creature that gave its core, and the most profound secret of Wandlore, the secret that transcends every cultural difference, is this: the wizard and the wand do not just work together, they grow together. They learn to trust one another in the space between spells. The deepest magic is not in the incantation, but in the understanding. This state of perfect connection, where command and compliance become a single unified act of will, is the very heart of the relationship itself. It is a bond of absolute trust that goes far beyond the physical materials. This is the realm of Chapter 28, the Philosophy of Symbiosis. We spent the last chapter wandering through the diverse landscapes of wand-making across continents, from the wandless traditions of Ouagadougou in Africa to the intricate core preferences of Asian wand-makers and the European dependence on the wand as a conduit for nearly all magic. That tour of cultural variation raises a deeper question, one that goes beyond materials and techniques, beyond the wood and the core. It asks us to consider what the wand actually is, not just what it does. And in the wizarding world, the answer is far more profound than a simple tool. A wand is not a screwdriver or a cauldron. It is not a broomstick or a quill. Those are objects you pick up and put down. A wand, however, becomes something else the moment it chooses you. That choice, the first law of Wandlore, creates a bond that transforms the relationship from user and instrument into something closer to partnership. The wand is not a passive amplifier of your will. It is an active participant in the magic that flows between you. Think of the way a skilled dueler does not simply point and shout. They feel the wand respond, a subtle shift in weight, a warmth or a coolness, a pull toward the target. That is the wand reading the wizard, as much as the wizard reading the wand. Garrick Ollivander, the most famous wand maker of the modern age, spent his life observing this dynamic. He noted that wands, though inanimate, seem to learn from their owners. A wand that has spent decades with a cautious, methodical witch will become resistant to reckless magic. A wand that has been in the hands of a bold, impulsive wizard will crackle with eagerness at the slightest provocation. This is not imagination. It is a documented phenomenon in wand lore, one that speaks to a form of memory, or perhaps even a rudimentary consciousness embedded in the wand's core and wood. The wand remembers the spells it has cast, the emotions it has channeled, the triumphs and the heartbreaks it has witnessed. Does that mean a wand possesses a soul? The wizarding world is divided on this question. The strictest scholars argue that a wand is an object, no more sentient than a rock, and that its behaviour is merely the imprint of the wizard's own magic. But others, particularly those who have lost a lifelong wand, will tell you that a wand can grieve. They speak of the way a wand feels cold and dead in the hand after its true owner has passed, even if the new owner is perfectly competent. And there are stories of wands that have refused to perform for a thief, producing only weak sparks or backfiring altogether, as if they were expressing a will of their own. Perhaps the most compelling evidence for a wand's interior life is the phenomenon of allegiance. A wand can switch its loyalty, not because the wizard has proven more powerful, but because the wand has judged that the new wizard is a better match. It is a conscious choice made by the wand itself. Draco Malfoy's Hawthorn wand, for example, did not immediately serve Harry Potter when Harry took it. It recognised Harry's strength, but remained wary. Only after Harry used it to disarm Dumbledore did the wand fully transfer its allegiance. And even then, it was a gradual shift, not a sudden flip. The wand was making a decision. This partnership deepens over time. A young witch or wizard receiving their first wand is matched based on compatibility, but the wand does not know them yet. It senses potential, but it has not experienced the wizard's growth. As the wizard learns, practices, and develops their own style, the wand adapts. A wizard who becomes particularly skilled at charms will find that their wand becomes more responsive to charm work, almost anticipating the intent before the incantation is fully formed. A wizard who leans toward defensive magic will find their wand growing more alert, more ready to produce a protego at the slightest twitch. The wand reflects the wizard's skill, not as a mirror, but as a collaborator that has learned the wizard's rhythm. This is why master wizards often describe their wand as an extension of their own body. When they cast a spell, it feels as natural as moving a finger. There is no hesitation, no second guessing. The wand knows what they need before they need it. That level of symbiosis takes years to develop, and it is one of the deepest bonds a magical person can experience. It is also one of the most painful to break. Consider the emotional trauma of losing a wand that has been a lifelong companion. A broken wand is not just a broken object, it is a severed connection. Wizards who have had their wands snapped or destroyed often describe a hollow emptiness, a sense of being incomplete. They struggle to perform even simple magic with a borrowed wand, because that wand does not know them. It has not learned their quirks, their fears, their strengths. The magic feels foreign, sluggish, unreliable. And for those who have lost a wand to death or theft, there is a lingering grief, a mourning for a partner that cannot be replaced. A new wand can eventually form a new bond, but it is never the same. The old wand carried a unique history, a shared journey that cannot be replicated. The philosophy of symbiosis teaches us that a wizard and a wand are two halves of a whole. The wand gives form to the wizard's intent, and the wizard gives purpose to the wand's potential. Together, they create something greater than either could alone. This is not a relationship of mastery, but of mutual trust. The wand trusts the wizard to use its power wisely. The wizard trusts the wand to respond faithfully. And that trust is earned through years of shared experience, through triumph and failure, through joy and sorrow. It is a bond that transcends mere magic, reaching into something almost spiritual. And it is this understanding that has shaped the greatest wand-making family in history, the Ollivanders, whose name has been synonymous with the craft for over 2,000 years. Their legacy is not just in the wands they have made, but in the philosophy they have preserved. The belief that a wand is not a tool, but a companion, how that family rose to such prominence, and how they maintained their mastery through centuries of war, exile and change, is a story that deserves its own telling. It is a story that will lead us deeper into the heart of Wandlore itself, into the very soul of the craft. Your wand learns from you. This was the core of our last discussion, the philosophy of symbiosis, a wizard's growth in patience, in courage, in skill. It writes itself into the wand's very fibre. Every triumphant spell and every failed attempt deepens the bond, refining the instrument just as the wizard refines themselves. It is a living partnership, a dance of magic between two beings. But this dance requires a partner, and that partner must be made. For over 2,000 years, in the heart of Diagon Alley, a single family has been the architect of this most intimate relationship in the wizarding world, the Ollivanders. And their story is not just the story of a shop. It is the story of how a singular commitment to craftsmanship shaped the very soul of magical civilization. Let us take a moment to truly grasp what 2,000 years of continuous craftsmanship actually means. The sign on the door of Ollivanders says makers of fine wands since 382 BC. That date places the founding of this family business before the rise of the Roman Empire, through the Druidic era, through the Dark Ages, through the Burning Times, through the rise of the Ministry, the Goblin Wars, the global wizarding wars. The Ollivanders have been there. They did not just survive, they defined the standard. The very doctrine of the wand chooses the wizard. A concept so fundamental it is taught to every first year was not some ancient law chiselled in stone. It is Ollivander's law. It was Garrick Ollivander and his ancestors before him who codified the rules. They assessed the temperament of the wood, the nature of the core, the soul of the customer, and created a system of magical matchmaking so perfect that the wizarding world built its entire identity upon it. The impact of this continuous, unbroken thread of mastery is immeasurable. Every wand that felled a Dark Lord, every wand that built a great legacy, almost certainly originated from the thought, care, and ancient secrets of this single family. They are the quiet architects of wizarding history. How does a family survive such upheaval? How does a small shop in an alley withstand the tides of war, goblin rebellions, and the shadow of Dark Lords? The answer lies in a kind of sacred neutrality. The Wandmaker does not serve a faction, they serve magic itself. A goblin warrior needs a wand that respects the work of its hands. A Death Eater needs a wand that bends to cruelty. A member of the Order needs a wand that glows with loyalty. Mr. Ollivander serves them all with the same professional detachment, the same unwavering focus on the craft. He must. To refuse service is to break the chain, to deny a wizard their birthright, to impose a political judgment on a magical truth. This neutrality is not cowardice, it is a shield. It has allowed the family to persist through the Roman invasion of Britain, through the chaos of the medieval period, through the rise of Grindelwald, and directly through the horrors of Voldemort's wars. Garrick Ollivander himself was taken by the Death Eaters, tortured for his knowledge, precisely because he knew the deepest secrets of the wand cause. Yet the family line held, the law held, because the knowledge is the true legacy, and it is passed down like a sacred flame, immune to the fire of any earthly conflict. So what becomes of this ancient institution in the world Harry Potter helped build, the world after Voldemort? The shop stands, damaged but restored, but the future of the Ollivanders rests on a single fragile question, and that is the future of the shop in a post-Voldemort wizarding world. Who inherits the weight of all that history? Garrick Ollivander, after his ordeal in the Malfoy Manor cellars, returned to his workshop a changed man. The knowledge he gave to Harry Potter, the understanding of the Elder One's allegiance, proved decisive in the final battle, but the cost was immense. Did he train an apprentice? The torch been passed? Or does the Wandmaker himself continue to shuffle among the towering shelves? Selecting the right box for the next 11-year-old, with a lightning bolt scar on their heart, the shop remains a fixture, a symbol that even the greatest darkness cannot erase the quiet magic of mastery. But the craft itself must evolve. The wizarding world is entering a new age of peace and cooperation. The wands made for this generation must reflect a different magic, a world that knows the cost of war but yearns for the quiet comfort of home. The Ollivanders must adapt, as they have for 2 millennia, to the spirit of the age. This brings us to the most crucial element of the legacy, the preservation of secret lore for the next generation of wandmakers. The craft of wandmaking is not written in textbooks. It is whispered in the workrooms. It is felt in the grain of the wood and the hum of the core. The Ollivander family lore encompasses thousands of years of trial, error, and triumph. The precise reason a phoenix feather bonds so deeply with a defender, the exact type of dragon heartstring that suits a quick temper, the hidden language of vine wood. This knowledge is the family's true treasure. Preserving it means finding the right successor. It means trusting an apprentice with the secrets that have survived the Inquisition, the Statute of Secrecy, the machinations of Dark Lords. It requires the continuation of the line, or the taking of a worthy magical student. This is the invisible work of Ollivanders, the quiet passing of the torch. The young wandmaker must learn to feel the magic in a single unworked branch of holly. They must learn the sound a core makes when it finds its perfect home. This lore is the soul of the business. As long as it is passed on, the legacy survives. If it is lost, the shop on Diagon Alley becomes a mere antique. And so, the legacy of the Ollivander family leaves us in a state of quiet anticipation. A family who shaped the wand, who shaped the wizard, who shaped the very architecture of magic itself. They gave us the tools, the language, and the partnership that defines our understanding of the magical bond. But for all the records, for all the tests, for all the history, the family itself holds secrets that the world may never fully know. The deepest principles of Wandlore remain just out of reach, a perfect eternal mystery. Even after 2,000 years, the full truth of how a wand chooses a wizard, the final impulse that seals the bond, remains one of the most profound riddles in the magical universe. It is a mystery that perfectly defines the entire subject, a mystery we will face in the final analysis of the lore, the eternal mystery of Wandlore. We have traced the Ollivander family through 2 millennia of craftsmanship, through wars and goblin rebellions, through the rise and fall of dark lords who sought to bend wands to their will. And yet, for all that time, for all those generations of wandmakers who have studied the grain of every wood and the spark of every core, the deepest truth of Wandlore remains as elusive as the first breath of magic itself. Why, after 2,000 years of careful observation, painstaking record-keeping and countless experiments, does the wand's choice still defy explanation? Why can no wandmaker, not even the greatest among them, guarantee which wand will suit which wizard before the moment of first contact? The answer lies in the very nature of the wand. It is not an inert tool, not simply a channel for magic. It is, in a sense, alive, not with the life of flesh and blood, but with a sentience that is purely magical. And that sentience operates on a plane that human understanding, even wizarding understanding, has never fully mapped. The wand chooses the wizard. We accept this as the first law of Wandlore, but we cannot describe exactly how the choice is made. It is as if the wand possesses a kind of awareness that is both ancient and instantaneous, a flash of recognition that occurs in the space between one heartbeat and the next. And once that bond is formed, it is almost unbreakable. Think of what it means for a wand to be sentient. It is not intelligence in the way we know it, not thought as we think. It is more like a profound sensitivity, a receptivity to the character, the soul, the very magical signature of the person who holds it. Some wands are said to be more temperamental than others, more prone to changing allegiance, while others are fiercely loyal to the first wizard who ever wielded them. But the mechanism behind this loyalty, how a piece of wood and a core of phoenix feather or dragon heartstring can remember, can prefer, can refuse, remains a mystery that no amount of research has fully unlocked. The great wandmaker Garrick Ollivander himself admitted as much. He dedicated his entire life to the study of Wandlore, and yet he spoke of it with a humility that is rare among masters. He called it a complex and mysterious branch of magic. He knew that for all his expertise, he could not predict with certainty how a particular combination of wood and core would interact with a particular wizard until the wand was actually placed in that wizard's hand. He could make educated guesses based on centuries of family knowledge, but the final verdict always belonged to the wand itself. And what of the wand's own history? The materials from which it is made carry their own stories. The wood of the holly tree, for example, is said to be particularly attuned to those who must overcome great anger or sorrow. The vine wood, favoured by the Druids and later by Ollivander, often chooses wizards who seek a higher purpose or who possess hidden depths of wisdom. The core of unicorn hair is the most consistent, the most loyal, and yet it too can turn against a wizard who has betrayed its trust. These are not merely physical properties. They are echoes of the natural world, of the creatures and trees that gave their substance to the wand, and that substance is infused with a kind of memory that we can sense, but never fully articulate. Consider the limits of human understanding when it comes to magical sentience. We have no instrument that can measure the will of a wand. No spell can force it to reveal its inner workings. The wand's allegiance is not a thing that can be captured in a vial or recorded in a ledger. It is known only through experience, through the felt sense of rightness when a wizard grasps a wand that truly belongs to them. It is a feeling that cannot be described to someone who has never held their own wand. The warmth, the hum, the perfect balance of power and control. And when that bond is broken, when a wand is lost or damaged, or forced to serve a master it does not respect, the loss is not just practical, it is deeply personal, almost like a bereavement. This is why the wizarding community has such an enduring, almost reverent bond with their wands. The wand is the first magical object a young witch or wizard ever truly owns. It is the instrument of their first accidental magic, their first successful charm, their first duel, their first triumph and their first failure. It grows with them, learns with them. A wand that has been used for decades will often perform more intuitively for its owner than a brand new wand, because the two have developed a kind of mutual familiarity. The wand remembers the spells it has cast, the habits of its master, the particular inflection of their magical energy. In a sense, the wand becomes a repository of the wizard's own history, and yet for all that intimacy, the wand remains another. It is not a living creature in the ordinary sense. It does not breathe or eat or age. It can be passed down through generations, sometimes lying dormant for years before choosing a new heir. It can be buried with its owner or locked away in a vault. It can even, as we have seen with the brother wands, recognize its own kin and refuse to fight them. This is not the behavior of a simple tool. This is the behavior of something that possesses its own kind of life. A life that is magical in a way that we will never fully comprehend. There is a profound humility in accepting that some things are simply beyond knowing. The greatest wandmakers, from the ancient Druids to the Ollivanders, Isolt, Sayre in the New World, have all acknowledged this. They do not claim to understand everything. They only claim to have observed, to have learned, to have passed down what they have witnessed. And what they have witnessed is that the bond between wizard and wand is one of the most sacred and mysterious relationships in all of magic. It is fitting, then, that the most important object in a wizard's life remains, at its core, an enigma. The wand is the instrument of their power, the extension of their will, the companion of their journey. And yet, it is also a reminder that magic itself is not a science that can be fully mastered. It is a living force with its own will, its own secrets, its own sense of justice and loyalty. The wand chooses the wizard, not because it is programmed to do so, but because it is capable of making a choice that no algorithm, no spell, no amount of ancient lore can predict. As we draw this long meditation on Wandlore to a close, let us return to that first moment in Ollivanders, when a young witch or wizard steps into the dusty shop and holds out their hand. The wands fly from their boxes, one after another, until at last one remains. And in that moment, something happens that is not just magical in the technical sense, it is magical in the deepest sense. A bond is formed that will last a lifetime. A bond that is both practical and mystical. A bond that is as mysterious today as it was 2,000 years ago. That is the eternal mystery of Wandlore. It is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a truth to be experienced. And perhaps that is exactly as it should be. Because if wands could be fully understood, if their sentience could be explained away with formulas and diagrams, they would lose something of their wonder. They would become just another tool, no different from a cauldron or a broomstick. But they are not just tools, they are partners, they are teachers, they are in the truest sense alive. And so we leave the wizarding world with that thought, that the most important object in a wizard's life is also the most unknowable, and perhaps that is the greatest magic of all. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.